might have a Mauler soon.
That would be exciting.
Mauler's had to do something today outside IRL, and it involves some very specific timekeeping. So we should get him at some point.
That
Probably
is amazing.
Sooner rather than later. Okay.
I'd like to give a shout out to Mr. Jason Spriggs, who did our graphics for today's show. Thank you, Jason.
He's so good.
Mr. Raygun himself, coming back after our prisoner episodes to do Squid Game.
They were good times, man.
They were good times.
Good times doing those prisons. Oh, man, I love that. I love that. And I got to read this super chat out because I'm dying to do my TV voice with this one.
All right.
Martino Simone.
Oh.
10 Swiss francs. As plus RMB plus good TV equals joy. Each figure sold separately, batteries not included. Good TV not guaranteed. Might contain brain stimulating discussions.
Well done.
Yeah. I was pretty proud of that.
Martino is a ardent supporter of both of us.
He is a beautiful sausage. And we're gonna have him on the show. We're gonna have him on the Hot Toy show.
Yeah, he's got to come on.
And we're gonna.
And when we do the European tour, when I come over there and we're gonna hit the road, we're going to his house. We're taking the James Bond tour of the GoldenEye Dam.
I don't know if I'll be allowed to go anywhere, mate.
Come on, dude.
I'm being serious. I'm being serious.
We'll sneak through the channel.
We'll sneak through the channel. We'll have to be smuggled across. Jennifer Cisco, by the way, has been a member at 4 Sensitive Level for 8 months now. And she says, will this be the day Az gives me a follow back on Instagram? Oh, okay. Lol. Love ya, as is Angels.
Wait, I'll do that too.
Let me open my Insta.
Yeah. Jennifer Cisco, just like Jake Sisko's mom, or not Jake Sisko's mom. Young Bum. Dude, you got to see.
Here we go.
You've got to look up Young Bum's Instagram. Young Bum 73. YONG Young Bum 73. Look it up because the guy, he is the most masterful. The guy
Bum 73. Yeah.
Young Bum. Yeah. Look at this picture.
Oh, okay. That's getting followed immediately.
Dude, come on now. Look at that.
Oh, this is. Oh, shit.
Dude, I'm telling you, when you look at it, it's one of the greatest. So Jen Cisco, I don't know which Jen. Is it Jen?
Jen Cisco 73. I followed you back, Jennifer. There you go. I've been a good boy.
73. Let's see. No results found. JENN or SISCO. What is it? I can't find it. I'm illiterate apparently.
Well, hi, everyone. Welcome to the Calamari Boys.
The Sleepy Calamari Boys.
Sleepy Calamari Boys. I'm trying to see if the oh, thank God. I had to stop. I had to refresh the screen to get the stream working on my other screen. I was a bit nervous that we were doing one of those talky bits to ourselves. Which we've done before. Well, I've definitely done before on the real BBC. Which is okay. Leave the UK. But where to go? Everywhere's crazy at the moment. Everywhere's Nazi Germany in the 1930s right now.
It's crazy.
I just want a country with a brain cell, not a political ideology. But we're on to hey, actually, we're going to read one more comment out. I want to read one more comment out. The first comment that was posted today, Eric Heinrichsen, reported in capitals. I had to shout that because it's in capitals. For copyrighted content. Enjoy, fascist. I don't think Eric realizes this is a discussion show about Squid Game. I think he thought that we're just going to play Squid Game episode 6.
Really?
Yeah. Eric's a big thickie.
So we're being called fascists, even though we're reviewing a TV show.
Yeah.
You know, it's the level
people
of
need to learn words and understand what the meaning of said words are.
It's the level of intelligent discourse on the internet that constantly amazes me. I'm so glad that people give us the benefit of the doubt.
Dude, I didn't touch the internet today. Hi, good discussion time, by the way. I didn't touch the internet today until around about 3-ish, maybe half 3. And it was so bizarre because it felt like stepping into like fucked up Narnia. Because during the day, like postmen would come round, you know, you could hear the neighbors talking, conversing, cars driving by, kids going to school, all this kind of stuff. And then I go on the internet and it's all and he's just like, which one's real life and which one isn't?
Yeah. Well, you know what's really cool about real life?
We get to stay in it.
It's real. You know, you walk outside and wow, look, there's wind blowing.
Yeah.
It's a stormy day in Southern California here. I love stormy days in Southern California.
Stormy weather.
Stormy weather. And we're going to talk some Squid Game. Jennifer Cisco said she misses Ben. So that it really is a Deep Space Nine reference.
Oh, yeah, Ben Cisco.
Give it up for your...
so the little delay to see if Mauler arrives in... It's not worked. Not well. But yeah, we're here to talk some good stuff. We're here to... Hey, this been an awesome week of streaming this week so far.
Yeah, I got to do a great Star Trek The Motion Picture stream celebrating its 42nd anniversary. So this year, Star Trek The Motion Picture is in fact the answer to life, the universe, and everything.
Wow, because apart from Decker.
Oh, do you have to go there?
Well, I know.
He's a character in the 23rd century.
I know. Let's just think of him as Decker and not as who he is in real life.
Yeah, he's Decker, man.
Yeah, okay. He's not real. He's just
Don't besmirch my memory.
I know. Well, he besmirched ours, sir. He besmirched ours.
I know.
But oh man, I love Star Trek: The Motion Picture. By the way, I love it. I was doing some housework and I was listening to you and Drinker discuss it, and that was just so good.
We had a great that was a great conversation, and you know they're working on the 4K version of the director's edition now, and you know, to me that's the definitive version of the film, and it's gonna be great to have it in 4K finally.
Is that the one with an extra 15 minutes tagged onto the viewing of the Enterprise?
No.
I loved it. I loved that. It went on for like an hour. It was wonderful.
Dude, it's the closest thing to having sex you can ever see on a movie screen, watching Kirk fly around the Enterprise. Enraptured, in ecstasy. And what is that scene all about? It's about him sliding back into his favorite lady.
Hey!
When that travel pod
couldn't have said taking her out for dinner or anything.
When the travel pod connects, when that travel pod slides into the airlock and you hear it connect, and you hear the words "pod secure." Yes, they are. They're secure. Pod secure.
But that's not what we're here to discuss.
No.
We are here to discuss the episode of Squid Game that absolutely broke me.
Dude, you saw it before I did, and you didn't tell me what happened, but you were like dumbfounded.
Yeah, well,
you were emotionally shook.
Yeah, big time. I had to cry. I haven't cried at a TV show. I don't know how long. And it was just that I was just broken at the end. No, not like a cry, but like, you know.
Yeah, no.
There were tears that had welled up and started to pop out. It was, that ending was just, and then we are probably going to have to discuss some of episode 9 spoilers to go with this episode as well. Well, in episode 9 stuff. So you haven't seen episode 9, I'm sorry, but yeah. But yeah, and the sort of ramifications from this episode. Oh my. And it was interesting because you sent me a video during the week of Sambyok.
By the way, how adorable was she in that video?
I just wanted to cover in cotton wool.
So smart, funny, and witty and beautiful. My God.
And she was speaking, her English was great, by the way.
Yeah.
And she was going through Squid Game spoilers. Not Squid Game spoilers. She was going through Squid Game theories. And one of them was quite interesting because one of them was just like, they don't say at the end of the episode that number one's been killed. No, they do. The announcer does say, contestant number one has been eliminated. They do say that. But she was just like, she's not a Sang-Hui fan, Sang-Hung fan.
No.
She was not. And I was kind of like, I think you've missed some of the complexities of this character, you know. I really do. I really do. But again, we see the real Sang-Hung in the episode 9. We see the real motivation. Now then, what's this going to look like? This is going to look like some white boxes.
That's a great look. I love it.
So I'm gonna go into my brand section and I'm gonna click this, and then we're gonna have a little bit of
look at that, man. That looks good. All right.
There you go.
Did I just hear that someone wasn't a fan of Song Woo?
Hangui,
the actress
who played 67.
Yeah.
Oh, was not a fan of the character.
Oh,
I think she misses a lot of the complexities of the character. And I don't mean that in like kind of a way. You know, he does do some shitty ass things, but motivation is his driving force, and I think that gets put to one side quite a bit.
We're talking about the guy in the most debt, right? Because you said 67. That's the girl.
That's the girl, yeah. And we're talking about Sung Yun, who's the broker.
Sang Woo, right? That's his name.
Sang Woo, that's it. Sang Woo.
Beautiful. Yeah, he's my favorite.
Yeah, he's great. He's got a very complex character, and he's great. She did a video.
He fast one in this episode.
He pulled a massive fast one this episode, but he used his intelligence. He used his brain.
Yeah.
He took advantage of somebody who. He took advantage of the relationship that he had with Ali, and he took advantage of the fact that Ali is very gullible, and it's well, I mean, we'll get to it when we get to it, but this is life and death. This isn't great, schoolyard shit. And if you think he took relish in what he did not.
No, he hated it.
He did.
So, I mean, that's again another important aspect. Somebody says, tell Mauler the super chat I sent on Tuesday about Garth Hill. I don't know. We're going through the super chats on Friday, so I don't even know if I've got to that, dude. I can't troll through like a million.
Well, I don't know what Garth Hill is, so.
Okay, there you go then.
There you go.
Clearly no Garth Marenghi.
Yes. But I'll consider it if I ever become a resident of America for 12 years, but I don't even think
I'd vote for you. I'll put a hot toy in every house.
Yeah, baby. Yeah. Well,
if you come to America, you can be my Gangbu.
But this is
playmate.
This is just such a emotional, belting episode where we deal with morality. This I think one of the major themes of this episode is morality. And when your life's on the line, who are you? And we see some people who are incredibly brave. We see some that want to live, and can you really criticize any of them at the end of the day? That's a question I'm going to pose.
Well, that's a good one. I mean, also, I think this episode opens with some very interesting world building in terms of the game itself, in that they're not above keeping it fair. Let's hang these traitorous members of our organization and parade our players across right underneath their hanging dead bodies.
Yeah,
I loved how they did that. Right, it's a shocking image of these dead people to all these players, and then they're like, "Sorry for this, by the way."
Yeah.
we didn't want to ruin the game for you guys, so sorry about that. We fixed it, as you can see, and you're like, "Oh my god."
Yeah.
And what was great is they don't really talk about it. You just see the look reflected in their faces. That wait a minute, if our keepers can do this to one another, what's next for us? And
well, but they've already experienced like the nighttime raids by now, and
sure, but that's when the guards came in and put an end to it eventually. But if the guards themselves, if the watchmen themselves are being hung, that doesn't bode well for our
Korean.
future
There's a lot of
gameplay.
hungs going on.
Well, it's crazy as well because so many players will be like, "What the hell happened? What?
Yeah.
Why did what? Like, what that guy?
Yeah.
What the hell?"
So yeah, you mean the gangster guy knows, and his little
Yeah.
posse know what the score is. Well, I don't think the gangster guy shared with anyone that the doctor knew what the games
No.
were. So only
Well, to be
he sort
fair,
of really knew.
He might not even know like all of the details, but he
Right.
knows that he was getting information he shouldn't have had. So that's probably what
Yes.
killed them all.
Yeah. He wouldn't have known anything about the organ harvesting or that.
Yeah.
He just would have known that the doctor vanishes for periods of time and then comes back. And this time when he comes back, he comes up hanging from a ceiling with a bunch of guards and supervisors and stuff. So
And we
probably
also-
like, that's the network.
We also, adding to the intrigue, the front man makes a phone call or gets a phone call with the information that our VIPs are going to show up.
Mhm.
And that was quite a little interesting wrinkle in this whole
Yeah, we had a little thing, but we've sorted it out.
Well, this episode, unlike the others, it felt to me like they were like, we need to get a couple logistic things out of the way in the first 10 minutes, and then we're just going to watch the
Yes.
characters.
Yeah, I was going to say, because we see the detective take some photographs of the winners and stuff, and then that's it. That's all we see of him for the whole episode. He's done for this one now.
Yep.
This was all about getting the prep for game 6, and then dropping the fucking bomb after everyone had got their teams together. And I did like the way that they were like, this game is a 2-person game, so you need to get a partner, and the mentality of everyone was we need the strongest person and no women.
And and also that this is a team. We're now a team, so we're going to team up and play other teams in order to win the game.
And
I think that's the word that did it when they said team. Because I got subverted completely. Some people I've watched it with saw it coming. They were like, they're going to make them fight each other. And I was like, I just didn't see it. I
didn't either.
The thing about what I think is so clever about how it's written is that because of what happened with Tug of War, we're all sitting here like, the second they say teams of 2, you're like, oh no, we're going to get loads of people who are left out and loads of people who get ignored because they're weaker. You think that's the drama. And we get that.
Yeah.
We get that with the old man. We get that with the girls. And you're like, yeah, that's how sad. It's like, no, that's not the trick. There's one to come just yet. And that's that everyone is baited into choosing what is essentially their favorite.
Who they think is their strongest ally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Sang-woo. I keep wanting to call him Hung. When he took his top off, he's very nice, man. Sang-woo, when he immediately went for Ali.
Yep.
And he was just like, kind of like, your brawns, my brains, we're going to go around making a killing here,
Well, since you're on, do you guys tend to talk at all about anything past the current episode you're talking about? So
I mean, some of the chat haven't got there, but I mean, this episode, I think you have to kind of discuss some of the things that are past this episode.
Well, because we did a big EFAP across all the episodes. It took us like 10 hours. But one of the things that just made me really like the work they did for Song-woo's character is game 1, he, at no cost to himself, helps someone out. Just gives them a bit of information. Then game 2, he omits information. He doesn't necessarily detriment anyone. He just decides this time I'm not going to give information out that can help people. Third game, he provides information to save himself as part of the tug of war. Desperately, I might add. And game 4, we have serious lying and manipulation in order to win. And then I guess I don't need to say it, but game 5, it cranks up again for him. Game 6, he's at the end of that arc. He goes from who he is in episode 1, or rather what actions he takes in episode 1, just compared to how they change with each game. I think it's really well done.
Yeah, I think I said when we started these, Robert, that Sang-woo has just got such a great arc.
Yeah,
because his character just, you know, it alters depending on. He's so clever and shrewd that his character alters depending on the game. And
I also love it that in a way he represents the peak of civilization. And how throughout playing the game that civilization, the levels of civilization are sort of stripped away from him, all the way down to the most primal, which is to survive.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
We've built up this. We live in this civilization that we all there's sort of a social construct that we agree to live in it. But if the civilization were somehow unbalanced, which I think that's what's happening to us now on a global scale.
Yeah.
That there's going to be people that wish that civilization endures, but there's going to be others that are like, no, let's just burn it down to the most primal
there'll be
level.
people who are like, I wish I endure rather than civilization necessarily.
Exactly. That's right. And I thought that was very interesting, because at the end of the day, if you're not primarily interested in your own survival, that's where civilization begins. You know, the beginning is when people realize that it's more beneficial if there's only two of us. Let's band together to start building a civilization so we can make our lives easier. But this game doesn't allow for that. In the end, it's literally the end of civilization, which is when only one person remains. There can never be a civilization because there is only one. So I always love that sort of deconstruction in the game. And you know, he was a guy that he was from finance. You know, what is more representative of civilization than the creation of money, which doesn't really exist. It's only because we imbue it with value that somewhere like in America, we were on a gold standard at one point, so every piece of paper represents a piece of gold. Even that's gone away. You know, now in the world of crypto and whatever, what is money? And he represented that idea.
So. Yeah. Go on.
Well, yeah, I was just going to, because like I find him quite fascinating in terms of everyone's very quick to condemn him, and I wonder if he's supposed to be representative of where our character could have ended up if he were placed in the right circumstances every time, because we that would be a serious discussion for the next episode in terms of what situation Sang-woo was put in. But I also like that I'd say his flaws are tied in with what we assume brought him here in the first place. Now, one of the big things about investment banking and all the things he was doing is that there are like statistical averages where if you invest in the right things, like you'll get your payback. But with statistics, you can lose like 10 times in a row, and you can be like, how? Yeah. And that's what you love to see it. That's what happens in this episode. He's furious because he lost a 50-50 like 3 times in a row. And he's like, that shouldn't happen. And it's like, well, that's not how it works, Sang-woo. Like that.
But don't you think that's quite funny that's the thing that makes him mad? He's never been mad.
Yeah.
In the show until the moment where statistics, where the law of averages don't align with his brain, you know? I got a 50-50. I've lost every round. You're cheating.
Exactly.
You gotta be cheating.
He just immediately assumes they're cheating. We're just like, well, no, that's how it works. You can
that's
flip
how you lost your money
3 times. Exactly.
This is him. This is a reflection of how he got to exactly where is he. This is his money going down the shitter.
He's a smart guy, but he can lose several times in a row with statistics, and it can cost him everything.
Yeah. And again, I think the show was showing us a physical manifestation of that.
I also love that we finally get to know we didn't really talk about her, but the mysterious new cute girl on the block, 240,
popped up during the tug of war.
Yeah,
and you know, we really start to get. I mean, at first she's rather mysterious, and you're kind of. I think the audience was kind of expecting: is she another crazy person, or is she diabolical, or why is she here? We don't really know. And
I think we're missing out on a big thing. First is that the manipulative woman, let's just say the loudmouth manipulative woman, she doesn't even get a partner.
Yeah.
Right? And so everyone, because of how the games have progressed, everyone's just assuming the person who doesn't get a partner, they're dead. They're going to just kill them.
Yes.
And then they all get put into the game room. The door's shut. and then the guards just drag her away. And I gotta say, I thought they're just, when she's like screaming, I thought, they're just gonna kill her.
Rags had the same reaction to me, but when I first watched it, but I was like, I don't think they're gonna kill her because we've had so much time with her and Thug Guy, and it seems like the payoff has to be together. I feel it's got to be more so together. So I was like, surely they wouldn't kill her just yet. And I was thinking to myself, of course they could just justify it by saying it would be unfair to kill her because she was left out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it was a cool little moment.
It doesn't not make sense that she's just there in bed at the end. Hi. It's just
like people leaving kids out of games is mean.
It's not her fault technically. It's the numbers.
See, in a way, it was kind of a double subversion to me because, like with Mauler, I agree with what you're saying, but when I was watching it, I'm like, for me, it was just another way they're subverting.
Yeah, it could be
viewer expectations, and that's why when she showed up to me, it was like a double subversion. I'm like, wow, that's interesting. I love that was actually a moment that I smiled. After everything that happens when she shows back up, I'm like, okay.
A lot of people don't like her. We found that when we were doing the EFAB. A lot of people were like, so annoying, weird. But like, I found it quite the wild card, and I enjoyed it being there.
Me too.
I thought she was. They started her off a little bit negative, but after the Thug Guy had betrayed her, I had a bit of a turnaround, and I liked the way she was like trying everything she could just to go to the toilet to have a ciggy. I see her as a variation on Sang-woo as an archetype. She's willing to do anything to win, but her scope is much smaller than his. Sure. He's like planning 10 steps ahead of how to win, while she's like literally anything. She's grasping at any straw that comes to her. Yeah. She'll use her body. She'll try and manipulate. I
think it was episode 3 that he makes a pass at her. I forget the thug's name. As long as I'm talking about when I say thug.
Oh yeah.
And she looks down.
Doc
like
Sue? Is it Doc
yeah,
Sue?
I think it's Doc Sue. She looks down, and I get the impression looking at her that she's probably thinking, I don't want to do that, but that might get me further than I could ever get otherwise.
Are you talking about the first one where he's just like, hey, there's plenty of beds here, maybe I'll test you later, sort of thing, where he's sort of implying that if you want to get in this gang, I'll bang you later, but he doesn't. And she kind of has that look in her face like,
yeah, and I think she's just realizing that I'm probably gonna have to do that if I want the best chance of surviving.
She's 212. Her number
212. Her character doesn't get a, it's there's multiple reasons why she doesn't get a partner. It's because she's female, and that's the weakest link in this game. Deal with it, people. That's not being sexist. Let's just deal with it. And because she's played every side, she's played everyone, that nobody trusts her.
Yeah.
So nobody would even be thinking about partnering with her because of her past record. But it was
she was with a team that stole food and then laughed about it, and then she's like, let me join another team. It's just like, no, fuck you. Like, I wouldn't want her on my team. I wouldn't.
No.
I'd assume that she's gonna backstab us.
Exactly. And who do you want a partner that could potentially backstab you?
No.
That's the thing. You got to be careful with who you trust in there. You got to be very careful.
Well, you can't even trust your best friend. Yeah.
Well, let's be honest.
This episode shows.
If they were, we made it as a team, us three, to the last game, and they were like announcing it, I'd be like, oh, guys, this sucks. Because we're probably gonna have to kill each other.
Yeah, but it's as if let's say we'd all played the game as fairly as we could, and we'd all got through to the end game. God, it'd be horrendous, wouldn't it? And they just throw a knife in the middle of a room and go for it.
For me, I would consider trying to do it the way that I forget her name, but the one with Sabiok, the new girl from Tug of War. Yeah. I would probably try and do it her way, where I'd be like, let's pragmatically discuss everything we've got and what we've got to live for, and just see if we can weigh it up. I know it sounds horrible, but
well, that was incredible, because we have people that throw themselves immediately into the marbles game, and just go straight to the basic. I'm going to try and take your marbles off you, and then you have these two women who just
We don't know how to play marbles.
Yeah, marbles. I don't know this shit. You know, we've got 15 minutes. One of us is gonna fucking die. Let's talk about it. Let's just talk, and we'll sort it out.
If it were me and a friend, I'd rather flip a coin. I would just be like, it's fine, man. We don't have to actually fight, as long as they were okay with it, obviously.
Well, now, let me ask you guys.
Sorry, go on.
At this point in the game, when you were watching the show the first time, I think, at least for me, the players assumed that they might get. I don't think the players ever thought that there's only going to be one person standing. I always got the feeling that they thought that certain
Sang-woo does. I think Sang-woo.
Yes.
I think Sang-woo wants to create that situation as much as possible. He wants as much money for himself as he can get.
But I did always get the impression that these characters thought that at some point some alliances would allow them to be like, and maybe that's because, you know, I was thinking about Battle Royale, the end of Battle Royale, that maybe there's a way that these people, they're by teaming up at some point, there's going to be a relationship with two people that's going to allow them to prevail together.
Take down the system. Or at least pervert the system.
But I would say that the end of this game, the end of this episode, dissuaded me of that idea.
At the end of this episode, I would say I was in the mindset of all hope is lost.
Yes.
I was just done.
Until they make it canon with whatever they decide to do with season 2, I guess. You could assume that if, you know, because we wiped out a lot of people in the first game through them just not knowing they were going to die, right? If they all knew, I think we could have gotten a lot more people. Then let's pretend, you know, it's possible. Most people pick the triangle and honeycomb. Let's just say that happened. It's like, oh shit, now how many are we dealing with? Maybe it's 300 for tug of war, then down to 150, then Marbles takes it down to 75, then the glass one. I mean, we could be down to 30 for Squid Game, and that's 50 winners,
it depends
right?
how long they let the evening fighting go on for and stuff.
True, as well as maybe they would extend the bridge in the Stepping Stones one. I don't know. I've seen people say that that's a potential. I guess we'll find out.
Two
maybe.
bridges.
I would say that with season 2, the games would be completely switched up. Like it's going to be something completely different. I mean, they're going to take us on a totally different journey.
I hate to be that guy, but I have a feeling season 2 is going to focus on the games and not the characters as much as a mistake. Like it'll be like, people love the games, and you'll be like, no, it's knowing what the people in the games are doing.
Right.
Yeah, it's the characters that made it so compelling. To me, anyway, that's just my.
Like we'll get one game per episode, but like I'm sure producers are saying that to them. It's like season 2, you have to have one game per episode. You know, absolutely.
Do you think, just as a sidebar, we're gonna go on a tangent here for a sec, people. Do you think, as a sidebar, that red light, green light has just become too iconic not to have in again?
You can do it again. You just got to be creative,
capacity, right? You know,
yeah, there's got to be a twist because you know I think one of the big mistakes, and I have to go back to the Hunger Games. Like, you know, I remember Stephen King reviewed the book The Hunger Games, and it was a riff on even Stephen King's original book, The Running Man, which was turned into a movie that doesn't resemble his original story at all. And when I thought The Hunger Games worked as a great standalone book. And when Suzanne Collins wrote this, I remember reading Catching Fire, and I'm like, I felt betrayed, you know, that I'm watching. Okay, we're gonna have a contrived reason for Katniss Everdeen to go back to the games, and we're gonna make the games even bigger and badder than they were before.
Bigger and better.
And I thought that that's not what the book was really about. But that's kind of, and I think Mauler, when you say that, I'm hoping that they don't just give us a replay of the games, but you're probably right in that because the games only work the way they work because they spent the entire first episode of the show building these characters up, or building one character up, you know, and you're following the plight of this guy, and unless the reason the show works is because you are so caught up in these characters' plights. And if they don't spend the time, I mean, if you're just going to kill people, then it sort of defeats. Yeah, and then it defeats the purpose. I mean, I think that it's underestimated how important the character building is, because, like we talked about just now, you have an arc our stockbroker has an incredible arc from the time he's introduced to the time he winds up in the final game, that the show wouldn't have worked had that arc not been baked into the story. And whether you understand that arc or not, you still feel it. You still kind of understand that there's a level of interest built into all of these stories. I mean, that's what makes great stories as opposed to, say, fun B movies. And I don't think this would be the phenomenon it would be. I mean, then you wind up with Battle Royale 2 Requiem, which is a terrible film.
Well, again, man, Netflix, they are known for doing this. So many great IPs that start season 1, everyone loves them, and then season 2s are like a horrible copy.
The Boys.
Well,
it's not on Netflix, but
yeah, well, I think you're right with that one, but obviously, Netflix ones I always think of are Stranger Things and Westworld, and
Stranger Things for sure.
There's like a list. There's loads of them.
But I'd like to believe that the creator behind this, it took him so long to get it made that I'm sure the idea of a sequel was something that he'd wrestled with previously. So I think he probably has an idea.
Well, he says, I have a story in my head.
Yeah.
But it's going to take a while to get out there.
This story was cooking for, what, like a decade? This next one is probably...
Yeah, about 11 years, yeah.
I imagine Netflix are already tapping their wristwatch. Like, you better get that done, boy.
Well, I mean, that is the great issue with our day, you know, when you create something that's wildly successful. I mean, I think back, the greatest example probably of that is the Matrix sequels.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the Matrix was wildly successful beyond anyone's expectations. I mean, even Warner Brothers didn't quite know what it was. And then they're like you just said, tapping their watch. Why don't you do 2 at once? Why not? And, you know,
I would say what he has in his favor is he has literally a worldwide phenomenon.
Yeah.
And so even though Netflix might be saying we need this season 2, he's got a lot of power here. To say, well, you know, it'll be done when it's done, sort of thing.
I'm no different from the rest of the consumers that make this happen. I'm like a vampire for that content. I'd be like, another one, please. Another season, let's go. Yeah. But at the same time, if they were like, well, it might come out mediocre, I'm like, oh, take your time. Take whatever time you need, please. But I get excited, I know.
Well, you think about things like I was a huge fan of The Sopranos, the first season of The Sopranos. But the reason that was so interesting is because the dynamic between Tony, his mother, and Uncle June. And once Nancy Mershon died, you know, his mother, Olivia, died, the show changed. And while it was still fun to watch and I enjoyed the characters, there was something that was missing from the show. And even though it's revered now, I really thought The Sopranos was really a 1-season show because it never reached the heights of that first season, because the dynamic of what that show was actually about ended when Tony's mother died. They didn't expect Nancy Mershon to die, so they kept going, but I don't think it was ever as good as it was in that first season.
Mm-hmm.
But it was imposed on them.
Was she the mayor in Naked Gun?
Maybe. I mean, she was a great character.
Or the like head of the place. Is that the head of the mayor? I think it's the mayor. I think she might have been the mayor in Naked Gun, you know. I might be wrong. I would be completely wrong.
But like Mauler said, I mean, I would hope that because you know, these shows, they one of my problems with, and I rail on about this, corporate entertainment, is the interests of a corporation is diametrically opposed to storytelling. Yeah. Because a corporation wants to define a story by certain elements they can put on a spreadsheet.
They want content. That's what they want.
But
they want to stamp it on everything, get it all out.
And they don't understand that a story is much more complex than that. And you can't, just having elements in a story doesn't make the story good. And it's really frustrating. We're going to see more and more. I mean, we've seen it with so many different IPs. But with this, the worldwide phenomenon is because not just the situation, but because of those characters. Because we are all players of the Squid Game. And that's why the show works.
Oh yeah, and it makes me worried because like we covered a couple people reviewing different things to do with Squid Game. One of the ones we saw, it wasn't live, but the ending of their review, they were like, you know, the best season 2 is going to be if you get all new games, and like I'd say maybe even 2 games per episode, and you got to have a villain, one with a new mask, a really cool mask. And I was just sitting there like, you haven't. No. That's not at all what this is about.
No. You've no idea. You've no idea what you. Oh man. Stuff like that scares me when I hear stuff like that.
And then you have Netflix doing polls and stuff, and they're like, "Yeah, people want more games. People want more spooky masks."
What game would you like to see in Squid Game Season 2?
No.
I just think of that when It's a Gundam video where that kid's on the floor and he just looks up and goes, "Ah!"
Well,
I just see that meme.
It would be interesting, like in this season, the games refer to children's games that people played. Well, what if? Who says that the next games have to be children's games?
Well, the thing is, I think what we're kind of missing here is the games are sort of irrelevant because the games are what number one played as a kid.
Right.
The games are him reliving his youth and reliving a time where he actually had fun. He's so rich. He's done everything, you know. He's friends with these decadent, horrible, disgusting Westerners that to pay money to watch humans kill themselves. He wanted to go back to a time when he was legitimately happy. So the games are just they literally are what he played. And like I said, if you watch the show back, every time a new game comes up, he's just like, "Oh, I used to play this as a kid.
Right.
I used to play this as a kid. Oh, this was great when I was a kid." And then with Marbles, when they discover the game's Marbles, he's just like, "Oh, I used to play Marbles." And then, suddenly, oh my goodness me, just 4, 5, 6. 4, 5, 6 is all kind of like elated. But no, the games aren't these wild machinations of some madman. No, they're the kid games that number one used to play.
Right. So
presumably it's just the simplicity of them as well, that we understand them very quickly. It's very useful because they're not playing Monopoly, even though that's kind of a kid's game as well.
No, they're not. Yeah, it's not trying to overcomplicate matters. The games are very simple. Tug of war, cut out a shape, don't get caught moving, hopscotch, get the right panel. And then the only kind of like complicated one I think for us is Squid Game, because we didn't play Squid Game, so there's sort of like this weird sort of rule set but other than that, no, very, very basic, and that's to the show's credit, not detriment.
Well, it'd be interesting if the idea of the games was completely subverted and different. I mean, maybe the next person was a fan of military campaigns throughout history.
What if season 2, Sang-hung, 456? No.
That's Il Nam, right? Oh, no, sorry,
that's number one.
Ihan.
You're talking 456?
Yeah, 456. Just say 456. What if he kidnaps a ton of rich people? Overly subversive rich people, and then subjects them. But apart from they start with huge money, and then every game they fuck up, they lose money. There would have to be some sort of subversion. Gi-hun, thank you, Gi-hun. There would have to be some sort of, and I'm not saying that's a clever idea at all. I'm just saying it would have to be that sort of subversive. I don't think if you put poor people back in the same position, to me, it just would not work. It just would not work again. No, unless season 2 is it's called Squid Game, but it's don't really have to go into the games. It could be about how to destroy the games, how to destroy the system of these games. How deep does it go? How many countries is it running in?
Or not destroy the system.
No, because he said that
destroy you.
That Ji-hung, I've forgotten his name already again. Fucking hell. Ji-hung?
Yeah.
Ji-hung, yeah. That Ji-hung is going to do something positive, like with what he's got, the money that he won.
But the road to hell
is paved with good intentions. Yes.
I mean, it would be really interesting if you find out that a version of this game must exist for some reason. Maybe that's what it is, this game allows. It's like, I mean, I hate to bring up Eternals, but this game exists in order to keep the rest of civilization chugging along, some version of it, and being that we're all players in this cosmic charnel house that we live in, and go really dark, you know, and say that some version of this, whether it's rich people, however you want to do it, but it's this game that propels our civilization. As long as there's a group playing it over here somewhere, we don't have to think about it, but as long as this is going on in the background, it allows the rest of us to continue forward.
Maybe in his attempt to stop the game, he only facilitates like one of the most popular ones ever.
Yeah, exact. Something along those lines. Or that they know this was going to happen. They know that they looked at him, they profiled him, and what he is doing now is he's still playing their game by being out in the world. He's just moved up to the next level, and he doesn't know it yet.
But right at the end, is it the salesman? I thought it sounded more like the salesman who was on the phone to say, "Just get on the." It could have been front man. It could have been front man.
I think
it's just like, just get on the plane. Just get on the plane.
Presumably, Frontman is now in control. I'm not sure if he is, but maybe he's deciding the games, and maybe his games will be different. You could do it that way, you know.
Well, I mean, this is where we got to have some spoiler discussion, because we're gonna leave that for episode 9.
But I mean, back to episode 6. Back to episode 6.
Yeah,
of course.
I mean, I do think that, you know, we're once we the viewers are set up to believe that these teams, that everyone's gonna compete against one another. How did you both feel when the revelation comes that we're playing marbles? It's the two of us. We're now on opposing sides. How did you guys feel about that when you were first watching? Because I was genuinely surprised by that.
Oh, I was sad immediately. I was like,
I'm like, oh man.
What, when you get the realization?
Yeah.
Yeah, when the camera's panning through all of our groups, I was just like, oh, the only one I thought was funny was Doc 2.
We need to just take it. I think we just need to take it back a little bit and understand the sacrifice that Ji-hun just did. Because the mentality of everyone is, we need somebody strong for this game. We need a strong partner for this game.
Before we know that revelation, yes.
Yeah. So with that being the mentality of essentially everybody there, they were pointing at the, number one and saying, well, that's the guy that's going to get left out, because, and then they're going to kill him. And Gi-hun just couldn't even know he knew the risk to himself. Turned down this young, looked in good shape, teacher, good mathematical brain. So, and he works out the steps on the next game, he works out his percent. Yeah. Cool. He's like, no, I can't have this old man be killed because he's left out. I would rather attempt the game with him and go down potentially that way, at least giving us a fighting chance. So that's a huge thing to do,
and preserving his dignity at the same time.
Yeah,
because the man's wet as pants, and it's preserving the man's dignity at the same time. I mean, what's really interesting is, in the face of all of this, Ji-hun, who was a degenerate, in his life based on his circumstance, he, in the face of civilization being stripped away from them during the games, his morality and his human nature comes out the more we go into the show. And it's kind of an interesting building up of his character.
Well, for a few more minutes anyway.
Well, that's the best part, is that
exactly
when you see what happens. I mean, it's shocking, because we're like, yeah, this guy's, despite what's going on. And I mean, that was a moment for me watching this show. I was like, oh
yeah, it was crushing me,
because the subversion, like, you think, oh, he's no.
Well, I was thinking, oh, he's just losing his morality now, and he's dissolving into the game. And
Yeah, it was like if he's being it was so brilliant the way that.
And that was
done.
the first time, I have to say, that was the first time where I thought, Sabiot, I thought she could win the game.
Yes.
Yeah.
I actually thought she was going to walk out the winner at this point. I was like, I think she's the one that comes out of this and who doesn't lose her morality, whereas everyone else does.
And it's interesting because the two of them, 240 and she, almost have the whole series played out in their interactions with one another. You know, you find out 240's backstory, which is pretty hardcore,
pretty dark.
Yeah, it's pretty dark. And so suddenly this person that you don't really know, she's taken us through her whole life in the course of, and she's just one part of this episode. And you're like, oh, and then once you've heard her tragic tale, it doesn't end well. It's just, there's no...
I had a feeling after she explained that I was like, oh, she's gonna say her life's not worth it compared to the girl with the brother and the mother. That's what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Well, it was how she ultimately was how she valued her life, because when it come down, when they just went, you know, there's a couple of minutes left, let's just play a game. What, you know, all or nothing. Whoever gets the marble closest to the wall. So she could have had a crack if she thought her life was more, you know, was worth a shot. Her sort of tragedy, hardship was worth more than Sabiot's. Then okay, but no, she made in her mind a logical decision that it wasn't, and that's the tragedy of her character. And at the same time, it's kind of like the tragedy of Sabiot as well, because she's a fighter and she's got somebody who's resigned. And so you know, it's a huge, we cannot quantify, we cannot in any shape, way or form understand or comprehend somebody giving their life for us. Literally. Right.
Well, there's another thing too. There is an undercurrent of, you know, a lot of these characters want to endure because of family, you know, their mothers, their fathers, or even Jihan is looking at number one as a father figure, respecting, whereas as 240 doesn't have, her family was destroyed. You know, it's not, so in doing that, I don't know if that goes back into the Korean roots of the show in terms of, you know, we don't, in America, as a culture, we don't necessarily respect institutional knowledge. We don't respect, I mean, yeah, we respect our parents because we're supposed to, but do we really? You know, whereas the people that I've known of from Asian countries, institutional knowledge and people that are elderly are greatly respected and revered. You know, and the fact that there's a big undercurrent of people's mothers or living alone, and obviously with Jihan there is, and the mother of Sangwoo. I mean, the fact that those two, the mothers are part of what is driving the characters in a way, or
yes,
at least with Jihan, both the mothers of both those characters are important to him, because he knows them, you know, not just his own, but there's this other mother out there that in a way he wants to win her over too, or, you know, because part of the neighborhood. But once you hear 240's story, she doesn't have a family, you know, her family was destroyed. And so I think in a way, Saibok, her way of preserving the idea of a family is she gives her life, so maybe Saibok can win and preserve her own, what's left of her own family, which is something 240 cannot do.
Isn't the final thing that she said, well, one of the final things she says, thank you, which is like heartbreaking. She says, go get your mum.
Yeah, exactly.
Win the game and go meet up with your mum.
It's just an honor to have been your partner or something like that. I was like, my heart struggled with that.
I know. I was just like, I I am not doing well here.
We talked about it on Eve. I was like, which of the payoffs is like the personal favorite? And that one, it's hard not to consider it as one of the best parts in terms of just so much meaning.
Well, considering how little time 240 had really on screen.
Well,
Right.
she
She
was
really
great.
displayed some unbelievable presence, particularly in that game. But she just had such a great kind of a look to her, vibe to her every time. Even in the tug of war, even when she was sat on the stairs alone, when she was sat down with the group, and then Sang-woo's just like, I thought we agreed no more win. It's just like, oh, okay, that's fine. You made a mistake. I'm out. You know, and it's just like, you know, she's just very sort of direct as a person.
After the life she's led, I think she's already resigned to the idea that it's probably over. She inherited debt. Like, how fucked is that?
And even after she went to prison, you know, she says that I came out of I've been in prison. I went right into the games, which is another interesting wrinkle. Do the games do people? Does the Korean or does the entire prison system feed into the Squid Game? Sure.
Well, it's they're feeding off people with no hope, no hope, no money, no way of getting, you know, no way of getting themselves back on the feet.
Season 2 could go the way of, you know what, the government, they kind of know about this.
Yes,
like that.
Yes, that's why we have an institution. That's why why does America have so many people incarcerated? Well, we need people for the Squid Game.
Oh my god!
Oh my god!
It's happening. But yeah, so that story. I mean, and that just seeing her getting her brains blown out in the
way that
background
was done
just,
too. You know, that shot with with her in the foreground, and you see just, I mean, that's just brutal.
Oh. But it's so I mean, yeah, God, that when you combine that with everything else that is going on with Ali and Sang-woo and Ji-hung and number one, and it's all happening at the same time with those main protagonists. You know, we're also seeing the gangster dude do his stuff, but I was just like, all of these bombs were just coming at us. It's just like,
I mean, it's like great cross cutting at the end of some big, well, like the end of Return of the Jedi. You know, they're cross cutting between all of our protagonists.
Excellent choices for the ending, for the editing. Sorry, in terms of how they stacked the events.
Oh God!
If you guys remember, we started with Doksu's result, which we're all just like, he won, I guess. All right.
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty chill. However, that does get in our heads like, main characters are gonna have to experience this. Okay, this is our first significant ending to, you know, these face-offs, and then the rest of them are much more sort of significant. And you know, you get over one, and you're like, whew, that was that, and then it cuts, and you're like, oh no, these two, geez.
And then the if we jump to the let's go to Sang-woo one next. You know, Sang-woo's just lost every game of marbles, which is a 50-50 guess. Is there an odd number in your hand, or is there an even number in your hand? Simple as that. And he's down to his last marble. You know, he's already shouted and accused Ali of cheating, and Ali's just like, I wouldn't cheat. I wouldn't cheat. And then, so, you know, that's the emotional Sang-woo, which you've never seen, and then he composes himself.
Yeah.
Well, to be specific, I love the way they do that, is when he's really angry at him, the gun cocks at his head. Yeah. And it feels like Sang-woo is like, this won't work. I have to try something else.
Actually, that's a really good point.
Yeah, and he tries begging, and he realizes pretty quickly that's not going to work.
Yeah.
The guy cycles through several strategies until he figures on one that will work. It's a great character. And
it kind of makes sense, because if you follow Ali and Sang-woo, you know, if Sang-woo's he gave him money when they left the game. He bought him food. He bought him ramen, noodles. He gave him bus fare. Yeah. When they came back into the game, he gave him his biscuit to eat, because he doesn't eat breakfast. And so you have this trust that's been built up between them. This guy's looked after me. He's giving me money. He's giving me food. You know, it's kind of, I don't want to sound this in a cruel way, but Ali's kind of like a pet to Sang-woo. almost.
Yeah, and if you know as well, because I actually think some of the dialogue is fantastic in here, assuming it's all translated properly. But when they first meet up, and Ali is like, "Oh, I don't know the rules for any of these games," and Song-woo's like, "We will teach you," and it's just like, "Oh, that's really." But in the back of my head, I'm like, "Well, Song-woo is very invested in him knowing the rules because they need to win." Like, you can interpret it as like, "Oh, that's cool. You're looking after me. You're caring. Thank you so much." When in me, it's just a pragmatic choice from Song-woo. Because if you remember, something I loved when I was rewatching it was when Gi-han is talking to number one at first and being like, "Oh, you can be our like major, the old dude of the group," and stuff. Just look at Song-woo in the background, and he's like, he doesn't. He already knows he doesn't want this guy on the team, and I think Song-woo was trying to kill the old man in the second game. I
totally agree with you.
I think he was trying to kill Ji-hung as well.
So I think he would have been. He looks at it this way: old man killed, excellent. Gi-han killed, that's fine. That's fine. It lowers our numbers. And I think that rapper, you can see that in his face because he's like, "Why did you pick the umbrella?" And he's like, "I don't know. I was always losing my umbrella when I was a kid." And he was just like, okay.
But he does. But he does. He does say Ji-hung before he goes to pick us, and then he's never mind. So that's got to be. If he dies, he dies.
He probably weighted up that if I reveal I know now, that looks like I was actually on board with killing them for a moment there. So it's too late. I think that's what's going through his head. I can't be sure, but I think he was hoping that Gi-han ended up with the star and that's like a 50-50 might make it, and the old man got the umbrella, so it would be dead.
Yeah.
Well, what I find here about with Ali and Song-woo just like makes up a scenario. At the very end, his last tactic is, "Hey, well, if we don't finish
nonsensical
the game,"
almost.
Yeah, it's almost like he pulls something out of it. In a way, it's I kind of saw it as a reaction to the subprime mortgage crisis. When our economy collapsed in 2008, people just like made up these ideas. Like, yeah, we'll just allow anybody to get a mortgage. Who cares? We don't have to look at their credit. And it was kind of something that he would do. So sure, we go back to statistics, or we go back to, he just makes up a scenario that has no bearing in any reality of the game. And Ali's trusting him like, well, that sounds, right. If we don't finish, and we can just play as like completely.
But if you sound convincing, then
yes.
Loads of people I watched it with were like Ali. They were like, "Oh, okay, what's the plan?" And it's like, it'll work. And you're like, okay, yeah. I'm not sure I follow, but yeah, okay. And it's like, well, I have the pebbles, so yeah. I mean, the marbles.
Yes, you do.
All the marbles.
You have all the pebbles. Someone else has got your marbles now,
dude. When they show the shot of the pebbles, I feel like every person over the world was like, "Oh."
But it was such a betrayal. Like I don't think we were prepared. We as the audience were prepared for such betrayal. Because it got to me, I was like, oh.
Well, Ali's been there since episode 1.
Yeah.
He was the one that saved Ji-hung.
And you like him. We as the audience.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He's lost his fingers in a work accident, never been reimbursed for it.
Yeah. That's the thing I love about this show. All of our characters are all here for different reasons. It's all complicated. It's tough. These are all real people who've been through a lot of real things. And the girl's story is just the one where you're just like, oh God, nobody's got a worse story than you. That's horrible.
But Ali's wife, I mean, she got money. She and the kid got back to Pakistan, and looks like there's probably going to be plenty of money left over to at least do something for a bit.
But with Ali's story too, it's like, okay, I've immigrated from Pakistan or wherever to Korea.
Illegal immigrant.
But yes, but still, I mean, it's the promise of a new life or a better life or whatever kind of life, and this is how it winds up. It was kind of a commentary on.
Well, how would it have gone if Song-woo didn't deceive him? I guess we'll never know.
We'll never know.
Well, it would depend on what number he picked, I guess, in the next game.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, god, yeah, mine.
Did you guys see the MrBeast version of that, by the way? MrBeast, he created Squid Game.
Jennifer, chill.
It's funny. To be honest, it's funny you mentioned that. I did not know who MrBeast was until just last night, where I watched a YouTube video about his rise to YouTube success.
He does all kinds of crazy projects, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I vaguely I'd
heard
watched his videos, but I didn't know who he was as an entity. I'd seen his stuff, and it's the Squid Game thing that he did, but I didn't realize his past. And there was a really interesting video I watched just last night, now that you mention it, and I'm like, wow.
Well, his vision of Squid Game was quite interesting, especially the Stepping Stones one, because I think like what you see happen, what would probably happen. A lot of people are like, nah, I've jumped 3 and been successful. I refuse to go, and I will kill all of you if you don't start jumping. And the thing is, a lot of people were like, that's fair. I'll do 2. I'll do 1. Like, we'll try and spread it out. And then they had, the best part was like they had one more platform and no one wanted to do it. They stacked like 8 people on one platform.
Wow.
They were running. They had like 10 seconds left, so they had to do it. And then one person finally did. It was fun to watch. I recommend it. It's very different from obviously from the show. But
do you ever play Fall Guys?
Yeah.
That game we go across the panels and they light up or you fall straight through. That's essentially it. And it's kind of like you get towards the end and everyone's like bunching up and like back and forth and waiting for somebody to make a move to see if one of the panels is going to light. And then somebody eventually is just going to go, fuck it. And then you go.
Make like a Squid Game DLC for that game, you know? Like
well, just make the game. Just make Squid Games. The Squid Games. So he tricked, we got Ali getting tricked when he gave him this complete spiel about, they're not going to kill everyone if people still haven't finished their games. That'd be so stupid. We need to find out who we're fighting, who we're going to team up. They're going to team up and put us together, and then we're going to have to fight in duos and whatnot. So he said, and then when the gunshot goes off of one of the contestants getting killed, and he just swaps the bag of marbles for the bag of pebbles. And he does that convoluted story about, no, you need to protect your marbles here. You need to wear it around your neck. And it's just like,
yeah.
Ali, come on, wake up.
Another fantastic shot where he turns up to look at the camera with a tear in his eye, and then it pans just to the right to show the guy behind him with the pistol ready.
Right at the end with oh my god.
And we cut away and we just show Sangwoo reacting to player 199 eliminated.
But we see the aftermath in the beginning of the next episode because that's
we
the
do.
start.
Yeah. It's such a it's just really sad because Ali is just this character who nobody's got any criticisms of him. He's just a nice person who's trying to win the right way just by using what he has at his disposal.
He's done. Ali didn't do anything provocative in any way, shape, or form.
He's very friendly. He's defended. Like he just defends against attacks. He doesn't really attack anybody.
And in his real life before the games, he just wanted what was due to him, what he had earned in life.
Hard worker, just wanted to make it in life.
Well, he got his boss's fingers back, I guess. So he got that too. But the obviously the big one, of course, was Ji Hung with oh my god, with number 1.
Yeah.
And this is when you don't obviously haven't got to the end of the show, when you get to this one, this is the heartbreaker because when they got to fight against each other, you're just like, oh god, well this guy's senile, he's gonna get annihilated. And he ends up like destroying Gi Hun.
Yeah.
And then we get that it's just when he has the 3 marbles and he's like odd, and he opens up his hand and he's got the 3, and then Ji Hung reluctantly opens up his hand and he's got 3, and then number 1 counts like 1, 2, 3, and then he goes to the other hand and goes 1, 2, 3, and he's all like happy, and then Gi Hung just says, but you said even. And because of his mental faculties, he's just like,
Well, what I love about all this is it's, they're playing, number one's playing playing us, playing the audience. And I love that they keep, whenever there's ever an opportunity where number one can, not just the characters.
Yeah, but we don't know that. We don't.
No, I know, but
from the perspective of not knowing
that's
what's to come.
Yes, absolutely. But I do love the fact that, you realize that number one, when he goes off skipping around, this is my childhood, this is my town, and I lived here after you think you're being drawn in, like, yeah, the old man is nuts. He is literally losing his marbles, and as opposed to having all the marbles, and it makes us think that until he says, when he comes back down to earth and says, but you did this to me. He realized that we're drawn in thinking number one is nuts. And so is Jihan. Jihan believes it, but then the knife in the heart is when you realize he knew what was going on the whole time. He knew he was being betrayed.
Well, when
calls him on it.
Yeah, but I mean, we see when Gi-hung realizes that he can cheat.
Yes. Believing because he can cheat because the old man's losing
because the old man is senile, or the tumor is, whatever. And he's just, going through the games, and you can see he's not relishing any of it. It's killing him that he's doing it.
Yeah.
But then, of course, then the old man makes it even easier because he just holds his hand out so you know what he's got in, and he looks across. He's just like, oh, because he's just like, you're not even, he's so far gone. He's not even making it hard for me to cheat.
Right.
So so it's just like odd, and he's opening it up, and then he thinks he's won, of course, but the old man's got one more marble stashed away, and so he thinks he's won. He thinks it's all over, and then when he goes to give the bag to and you're already, I'm already like, oh, this is bad. This is it. He's lost the game now because he's lost his morality. He's lost his game. This is where I thought Cybok, she's got to win now because she's the only one that didn't sell a soul here. And then when the old man's like, oh no, I found another. Then does his I'm a fucking mentalist thing and starts running around, and Gi-hun is just losing his mind because he's just like, stop and play. Just stop and play. It's just like, no, where's my house? Oh, this is my house. This is the house that I used to live in, and they open the door. I used to have a pond there. And it's just like, shaking him or whatever. And then he's just like, and then the old man, it's like, oh, I'll play one game, all that you have for all that I have.
Yeah.
And it's just, and then we get the whoa. I think this was the beauty of it, because then we get the outrage from Gi-hung. I have 19 marbles. You have one. How is this remotely fair? This is ridiculous. This is stupid. Yeah. And he gets right on his high horse, and he's giving, he's very angry, and he's shouting out. And then the old man just goes, well, how does it feel taking advantage of me?
Yeah.
And you just like, oh.
I mean, that was a huge revelatory moment in the show for me.
Yeah.
When you, because it worked on so many different levels. And I think it was a gut punch. I'm like, ooh.
It's like super common in media, especially it comes up in superhero stuff a lot. But whenever a rule is made like don't kill or don't maim, don't hurt or something, the way that you can often test it is by being like, would you do it to a really bad guy? And then they go, no. You do it to a really bad guy who's about to kill a kid. Try and push it as far along as possible. And as soon as they say yes, then you start to wonder, like, how did you draw that line? And can we push you back? Are you any different than any other murderer? Lots of this comes up, right? And so if you take number one as a character, he's probably been thoroughly impressed by Gi-hung throughout this.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of bucking his assumption about humanity. It's like, you are, like, it's amazing. You've picked me. You've looked after me. And, like, you've really not got a good reason to. You're just doing it out of the goodness of your heart. So, like, are you different or are you the same? And I think he just wonderfully pushes him right to the possible edge. And I think that all of us would struggle with this. It's like, would you take advantage of an old person? You're like, well, I don't think so. It's like, what if your life's on the line? You're like,
yeah.
And if you say, you know what? No, I won't do it. I'm principled. I will not. And you go, what if they have a week to live? You're like,
they're dying of a brain tumor.
Yeah.
And you literally stretch until, what if they've got an hour to live? What if they literally can't even speak English anymore because they've lost their mind completely? What if you can successfully lie to them and it'll save your life? It's like, I think everyone eventually reaches the limit, and I think Gihan did, and Gihan didn't like it, but he was like, yeah, this has to be done because ultimately I am worth, like, me as a person and my life to come is worth more than what you have to come.
Yeah, it's a justification.
Well,
it's also, where do you justify?
But I think that just that moment of, you did what everyone's doing here, Gihan. Your limit is much higher than everyone else's, but you still did it.
Well, I think that's what they want to prove. You know, that at the end of the day, no one will ever totally stand on their principles. Really, everyone essentially will one day break.
Yeah, but the great thing about that was when he did that, Gi-hung just broke down.
Yeah. He was at his mercy at that point.
Yeah, he just totally broke down because he knew, and it killed him doing what he'd done, particularly considering how much he had like helped the old man and wanted to protect the old man and make sure that he didn't just die senselessly, and it was him. It was you all along, Austin. It was him who was the architect of this man's doom. And yeah, when he's just bawling away, and then the man, number one just gives him his marble.
It's so done on purpose, like from that character's POV to me, because he gets the correct guess, he's got him, and then I imagine he's thinking in his head like, I'll give him the option to lie to me. Wait, what did you say? Just to see if he'll take the opportunity, and he did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
which is what I mean. When it's all revealed what's going on, this is what makes it fun for the VIPs and the game itself. They get to watch. It's fun to watch humanity reduced to its most base level and watch people just destroy one another.
They're horses.
You were saying that like ultimately everyone will break. I find that I'd rather go for V for Vendetta's message, right? That there are people out there. Our integrity sells for so little, but it's all we really have, and no one can take it. We have to give it. I like the idea that there will be people who can stand up to no matter what the test is, and they'll go through with it. There are a couple characters across media who will be like so stalwart in their principles, no matter what sort of thing, but I just appreciated the show being like, look, Gihan's not some angel. Yeah. We know that that's not true, but he is trying his best, and he feels like such an everyman. I think that most of the audience, when he gives his hand to take number one as a partner, we're all like, thank you.
But I think you just identified why the show also worked as well as it did and became a phenomenon, because we as viewers understand you can't always stand up in the face of this kind of adversity. You're gonna break. And that means you can still, if we're to go a different way, it wouldn't have been realistic. And to say that about this show, but I mean, it felt even more real what happens here.
Oh, do you think it's again another sort of flip on? If you make a decision, then you have to be responsible for the consequence of that decision.
Well, I mean,
which is something in their lives that they've all failed on.
The individual's choices versus the system they exist within. I think that, there's so much interesting stuff to look at for all these characters, where Song-woo is like doing everything he can as an individual to take the most advantage within that system. Meanwhile, Gihan, he's like doing his best to not succumb to all of the best choices for himself. He's just doing what he thinks is right. I think those are very interesting differences, and they kind of prove a point.
What is morally right?
Yeah, he thinks it's more, but Song-woo's not interested in what's morally right.
No.
And I think that there's variations for that with all the characters. You look at them and how they make it. Like Ali, for example, I think he tries to go with what is moral, but also at the same time, he will accept that I might just win because someone else is weaker than me. But that's how it is.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure if I think Ali is one of the characters that believes multiple people can get out.
I'm just saying that
Yes.
he's a lot more driven by morality than like a good sense of morals than someone like Songwoo.
Oh yeah, but Ali doesn't appear to have a mean bone in his body or an immoral bone in his body. He tries at in every game to do his best to make sure that they all come out.
I think there's an essence by the time you hit one of the last episodes that Songwoo feels like it's less his fault, more the system that he's presented with. While I think that the show is making a more nuanced point, at least I'd like to believe so, that you made those choices. Own them.
Yes. I just found this quote.
I think we get that right at the end.
I read this thing that I just found about the show that says there's a cheerful sadism in the way the games are constructed. Seriously, can you even stand one more ironically colorful set, one more chipper announcement that the game is about to begin over the strains of the Blue Danube that belies the frontman's insistence that their goal is to construct a fair world in opposition to the unfair one outside the complex walls. But it goes on to say, but for all the brutality, it does not seem to share the game's sadism itself. The scenarios it rolls out for the audience are awful to contemplate, to be sure, but the awfulness is the point. Creator, writer, director Hwang Dong-hook values the interpersonal connections he's creating even as he destroys them. It's an exploration of violence, but not an exploitation of violence. He's making sure that when he kills people you care about, you know their names. I was like that.
No, I just love that in any of my content. I remember Walking Dead got to the point where it was killing people, and I had no idea who they were.
Yeah.
Like, which one was that? Someone in chat said as well, what if the old man met a man who didn't lie to him and died from it? I don't know about you guys, but I think if Gihan had decided, you know what, you've won fair and square, I ain't lying, I think the old man would have been like, let's play again. Let's play again. And let's
one more game.
I honestly think he would have let Gihan win no matter what. He just wanted to see what Gihan would choose.
Yeah, because the old man does say, I've had so much fun playing these games to get to Gihan. He's like, and I think the old man was just like, okay, this is my time to step out now. I've been participating. This is my time to step out.
I'd feel very bad watching him try to do the stepping stone game. That poor guy. I don't want to see him.
I could not have watched that. If he was number one, it'd be like that kid on the ground again. That would have totally done me. But when you saw, you see 420. Is it 420? You see 420. You see Ali, and then you see the old man all bang, bang, bang. In quick succession. It's just I was just like that, like when Gihan broke down, when the old man went, well, how do you feel taking advantage of me then? That's when I was just like, because it was just all of them, the realization, the all of it now just coming to pass. And then
this episode made many a tear fall from many a man.
Oh, I know, man. And it was just, it also just the way, like, some people are like, oh, you didn't see the old man get killed. And it's just like, that was the situation. You didn't see Ali get shot.
Right. No, and people have said
that. It's kind of
to
like
me.
A respect. It's always like a respect for the character.
Oh, it's funny you say that. We covered a video not long ago on EFAP that was arguing about how you should and shouldn't write things. One of this girl's points was never kill a character off screen. It's disrespectful. We were like
the opposite.
Oftentimes it's the opposite. Is you don't show them getting mangled. You just you imply it. You know it's happened. It is over.
And then the interesting thing was the very start of the next episode. We see a mangled Ali.
Yeah, it's much more like rough because this episode, how do you even put it? Because it's so violent, so many people die, but yet it's so classy.
It's just beautifully written.
It's an absolute tragedy, but in the sense of just you're watching humanity just roll out. That's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's heartbreaking, it's gut wrenching, but the kind of relationship between Gihan and number one just feels so authentic and legitimate, and number one just being like, no, this is fine. You know, I've had a great time playing these games. Thank you. You know, and it's just like, and you know, he's not got long to live, and all this and it doesn't make it any less easy. And then you're thinking, you know, what's going through Sang-woo's mind? You're wondering what's going through Cybok's mind, and then you know, of course, what on earth is going through Gi-hong's mind right now? It's I think it's a genius, just a genius bit of television. This episode.
No, it really is, and I also think one of the great things about what's going on here is that as it's winnowing down the characters and putting in as these situations arise, you know, it comes down to, again, the stripping away of civilization. You have to make a decision. Do the people you love or care about, which one's going to go? And it almost comes down to like the idea of a Sophie's choice. You've got two kids, which one are you going to give up? And it's making it harder and harder and harder as you go on to make these kinds of moral or ethical or life decisions, to the point where it's almost paralyzing. You know, it comes down to, what are you going to do? And I couldn't help but imagine, what if I was in a situation like I was in a war, me personally, and I had to choose between who lives and who dies. And I've always been fascinated by those kinds of stories, because you can't, you know, from an audience perspective, there's no better way to really, you develop characters, and then you put your protagonist in a situation where they have to choose. And the audience, of course, is the proxy protagonist. And you're thinking to yourself, who would I let die? Or who would I, and it's like you can't not be emotionally invested and think about, what if you had to pick between one of your parents? And how would you make that choice?
I think this one is a little bit different, in as much as when those pairings were all made, I think we all knew who was dying. We knew Ali was going to die. We knew 420 was going to die. We knew the old man was going to die. You know, I don't.
All of them. I wasn't sure about Sang-woo and Ali. I wasn't sure. I figured that Sang-woo might be able to manipulate him, but I think that they could have gone either way.
Yeah.
Because
I just thought this Sang-woo was too powerful. He's too powerful a character.
Well, in retrospect,
yeah,
I remember thinking to myself that Sang-woo would make the better last villain than Thug Guy, and then obviously with that. So yeah, I think you're probably right. You should be able to figure out who's living from the second that they announce that one of them's going to die in each group.
But you know what? I still was going. I was always looking for the subversion. What were they going to do?
Oh, the journey. Then it was the journey, and the journey was incredible.
Yeah.
As we kind of discussed, the journey was something else, because
I was in the moment with all of it. Like, I don't think I was thinking like, come on, get on with it. I know who's going to live. I was just watching it.
Yeah, I feel the same way, and that's what's great, you know, entertainment, because we've seen so many movies and so many television shows and read so many stories that usually, for the most part, we're way ahead of the tales that we're watching now.
Sure.
And I think it's so unique when you can watch something like you just said, Mauler, that you're in the moment, where you're not ahead of the writers, you're not ahead of the plot. And that doesn't happen very much anymore. And I think that's another appeal of this show, is because nobody really knew what was going to happen.
Well, I also thought that another really, because the writing was so strong in the Marbles room, and essentially that was the episode is the Marbles room, that when they went back into the bed chamber and that woman's on the bed, I had forgotten all about her.
Yes.
Well, I've forgotten all about her.
You know, it's like, oh yeah, she's there. You're like, yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, her. And she's just there going to the gang guy, and it's just like, they've just gone through all of this, and we thought that she was the one who was dragged away, shot, and they've been through all this, and she's just been getting a nice sleep, catching up on some sleep, which has been missed. Crazy. What an episode.
excellent. One of my favorites.
Right, let's go through a couple of supers here. So let's go through a couple of supers, see what people have to say. But my God, that was just I. That's all I gotta say. Wonderful episode. It's the next game which just freaks me out. That's the next game which really freaks me out. But this episode was just And when everyone's saying, just you wait till you get to episode 6, just you wait till you get to episode 6. And it's all like, okay. And then you get to episode 6.
You were one of those people that did that for me.
I did.
I did that for everybody. I showed it. I was like, just wait till episode 6.
I did, because just you wait till you get to episode 6.
It didn't fail like with anyone I watched in terms of being powerful content. Like, I didn't know anybody who came away from episode 6 being like, ugh, that was crap. It was just like everyone thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, I don't know anyone who has said anything critical of episode 6 at all. Not one. Somebody just said a really good point, actually. They said, do you think that she could hear the announcements? I would say, yeah. Over the tannoy, you'd be announced that X contestant's been eliminated.
I imagine she may have heard them, yeah.
So, yeah.
Just waiting to hear Thug Guy's number, you know?
Yeah. That never came. But, as you wouldn't have known this, Mauler, but as Robert and I have discussed, when you break your word in this game, the promise that you make is the consequence of your actions.
Oh, yeah. We got
so in episode 2, where they get dropped off, Gi-hung and Cybot get dropped off, and she says, and he's like, untie me. She's like, if I untie you, you're just going to come running after me for your money. And he's like, I promise on my mum's life, I won't. And she cuts his restraints, and he immediately goes after her, and she says, I feel sorry for your mum. What happens to his mum? She dies. With the woman in the game, she says to Doksu, she says, you betray me, and I will kill you. And he himself says, it looks like you could already kill me, when she's on top of him. And then what happens? He betrays her. She kills him. So, you know, it's the consequence of actions with what you say in this game.
Very interesting.
So anyone that says a promise, and whatever the value of that promise is, if they break their word, that actually happens in this. It's very clever. Don't worry, it took me like 3 viewings of the show to get that. Because there is a lot of little bits in here. I'll just say the first super chat again from Martino Simone with 10 Swiss francs. He says, by the way, how's the new Swiss suicide booths going, Martino? You bought one yet?
Yeah. Wow. Wow. They look cool though.
You guys have seen Futurama, right? Like that.
Yeah. No, it's just like, what? This is ridiculous.
That was one of the funniest jokes in the opening episode of the whole series. Everyone loved the round. It's like, they're real, by the way.
They're real. Yeah. Welcome to modern day. As an RMB and good TV, as plus RMB plus good TV equals joy. Each figure sold separately, batteries not included. Good TV not guaranteed. Might contain brain simulating discussion. Never forget another time. It's so much better last time. Fuck it. Take 610 with the $2 says, either of you watch MrBeast's videos? We just discussed that earlier. Yeah. So there you go. RRTNS with a 5 New Zealand, who's phasing out smoking out in the country now.
Yep.
Hail as Mauler, Shemay, and the Shemay and the legend RMB. What a collaboration of connoisseurs. Hope to see you all on Drinkers 1 million stream later. Cheers. You will. Andre Medelsky with 100 checks says, fun news. Britain today. A guy comes to hospital and the doctor has to call the pyro team because the guy got an anti-tank missile stuck up his wazoo. That was actually a few days ago, Andre. I think it was a mortar shell as well.
Ooh.
The story's already evolving. But yeah, somebody went into a Northampton hospital, and they had a fucking mortar shell shoved up their ass, and it was live. So they had to get a bomb disposal unit to take the mortar shell out of his ass. Things you do in Britain.
Oh, it's always the Squid Game is all about humanity, and that story, that's
the humane.
It's about our limits.
Chris Raposo with the 5 Canadian says, just finished watching Hellbound, another great Korean show, highly recommended. Would love your inputs. I've seen it. I thought it was great.
Me too.
I thought it was really, really good.
Should I see it, guys?
Yes.
Yes.
I think you would really like it. It's very clever.
How's it ranked Squid Game for you guys? Above, below, same-ish?
It's not. I wouldn't say it's as good. It's different. It's different. It's different.
It's really different. It's much more fantastical, obviously, and but it has some very interesting points to make. It's pretty compelling.
And I won't say anything else. Just I would recommend watching it. And I also have to say this. Alice in
Chains?
Borderland.
Oh.
Alice in Borderland. Alice in Chains. Andy Radart with a £10 says, I always find morality interesting as it tends to be fluid. There are societal, cultural, and personal moralities. We know killing is wrong, though at times it can be considered morally acceptable. E.g., some twisted groups think throwing people off roofs because of who they are, who they're attracted to, is morally right, when it isn't by any rational measure.
I mean, and we've evolved it over time as well in our cultures.
Yeah, there is a societal morality, or at least a facade of societal morality, but there's also a personal morality as well.
Yeah, I mean, we all argue it all the time, every day, with very small, detailed levels of just what we think is the right thing. We adopt all of what we believe to be right, and then we try and convince other people that we got the right one.
And what's so interesting is a lot of this morality has been given to us apparently by a higher power.
Yes.
That we
in some circumstances, yeah.
And I find that odd. I mean, I think that that life itself defines when you put people together. I've always believed that humanity is better off when we do learn how to cooperate with one another, because if you really think about it, and the idea that people coming together, we are better when we work cooperatively to help one another. For instance, food, shelter, but also if you allow people their time to flourish. I mean, everybody being given an opportunity to work according to their gifts, unfettered. But it takes work. You have to do the work. It's hard to be in a society. It's hard to take that place where you have to do the work, and you can't be taken care of all the time. And it's very interesting to see how we always bump up against a place where we need to have been given something by that higher power in order to proceed, and that divine intervention never works. And it's a bizarre place to be, especially in the United States, where so much of what we define as being right and wrong is not based on the real world, but based on something that was bestowed upon us by some higher power, which I've always found odd.
Like Jeebus.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's and by doing that, at some point you're then by definition deciding that somebody is lesser. You're saying, okay, well, this is the right way to do it. And if you're not doing it, if you don't believe this, and I think that life itself, the natural order of things, the way nature works is it's pretty, it's the great filter. You know, it takes care of itself. Existence eventually. Things work and things don't. You got to figure it out. Figure out the universe, because the universe is going to kill you. And the only way to rail against that is if you create a civilization that is moral and just. Otherwise, eventually it will fall into ruin. But we'll see. We'll see where we all go.
Yeah, you having fun, Az? What's going on?
Apparently, one of his chats, somebody's accidentally banned somebody in the chat, and I'm trying to get them back. Can I just do like unban in the name? Because I can't see them on the ban list. It's our Australian friend Aiken.
Mauler, can I ask you a storytelling question?
That's a good one. You do that.
Okay, so
I'll just block myself for a couple of minutes trying to find them.
one of the things, because I obviously I very much enjoy your long form analysis. Why is it that we seem to, on a large scale, and I always go back to the movie Back to the Future. I think about Back to the Future was a film that was very iterative as it was being made. You know, they had, at first they wanted to have a time machine in a refrigerator. You know, they had to figure it out. But Bob Gale and Bob Zemeckis, the Bobs, were able to come up with a movie. And maybe you don't feel this way, but I think Back to the Future is a very solid studio movie that it really works on a storytelling level. I think it's one of the great screenplays, but it developed. Why do you think now we have such a problem at the studio level making stories that feel as complete and fulfilling as Back to the Future?
I feel like there's so many different problems we're dealing with potentially there, right? Like, it could be so many different causes. We're definitely at some kind of I don't like to be too doomy with it, because we talked about this, I think, on one of the open bars, but just we seem to be in some trouble, because I just don't remember in all my time watching movies that it's ever been this bad, where
no, it hasn't.
The vast majority of the $100 million projects from Hollywood are all just these really low tier sort of like common denominator things that are produced from Sludge Factory. And it's just like, how do we get here? And I don't know, I guess it's iteration just eventually gets down to this bland gray blob of a copy of everything that's quote unquote supposed to work. Knowing that Marvel have been doing it so that their action scenes are all done before they even necessarily have a script, it's like, wow, we're really like testing the limits of products, just trying to get that out there for the masses sort of stuff. You want to say it's a lack of creativity, right? You got to assume, because there's got to be self-respecting creators out there who will refuse that. And I think that's what happened on Black Widow, by the way. One of the first directors they brought in, one of the ladies, they were like, the action scenes are done. We just want you for the other stuff. And she was like, no, I want my own action scenes. And you need more of that, probably. Not to mention the people who are making this stuff just to care more. Because it used to be such an enterprising sort of... such an amazing creative industry, right? Like, we're changing the world with these things. But now it's like, let's get the next 5 out within the year.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny to me because I feel that a lot of it is the amount of money. There's so much money being spent that ultimately you come back to that corporate idea that, well, it's on a spreadsheet. We have to make sure that all of these elements are here to cover our bases to make them palatable or good for everyone. But by doing that, it's so funny, because that's the opposite of what great storytelling is. And Squid Game is an example of, I keep thinking about, as we go through these shows, if this were done in Hollywood, you would get notes, network notes, and it would be completely, I think, dumbed down and turned into, I mean, somebody mentioned in the chat earlier that the reason things like manga and Asian entertainment, especially stuff from Korea, is because it's true to itself. They're not, the creators that are creating manga are sort of unfettered in terms of their creativity. They're not being told, well, you have to do it this way. And there's so many different interesting, unique stories that are being told. And I used to think, is this just me if me looking through rose-colored glasses at entertainment from around the world, thinking that, well, because it comes from a foreign country, then it must be smarter or better. But when you watch a lot of the stories that are being told, and even things like whether it's the fact that you get Squid Game and a Hellbound in what, and then look at Parasite even, and the stories that are being told, they're so much more interesting, and I feel like there's so much more going on. And I wonder, why is our Hollywood dream factory become so homogenized and bland?
Part of it, I think that this was highlighted to me by the Wonder Woman films, right? Wonder Woman, famously, everyone thought the third act was like pretty bad, and then we found out Patty Jenkins was forced to do certain things by the studio, and we're like, so the studio ruined it. It's like, I see. Next film, she has complete control to the point where the studio tried to prevent certain things, and she denied them. It probably would have been better if they had actually gotten some of this shit out. So it's just like, wait, so what's the problem then? It's like, maybe it is a little bit more complicated than just the studios ruin things. I think they do. Maybe we need to reset and start really fundamentally teaching people how to write again, because like,
well, that's what
out of control.
I think that's where we're at. I think, I watch my burning hatred for something like Star Trek Discovery, to me, comes from the fact that science fiction is a literary based genre, and unless you're sort of well versed in the canon of science fiction, you'll never be able to write great science fiction, because all you've done is watched movies and television, which is sort of already a dumbed down version of a certain kind of a genre. And it's maddening to watch, because you realize that these creators don't have a handle on the very genre that they're working within, and it drives me crazy.
I just miss the passion, man. Like if for example, someone said, Mauler, the only Hollywood job we can give you to try and make the story you want to make is going to be the new season of Star Trek Discovery, I'd be like, what the me? Like, I've barely seen any Star Trek, but if that were my job and they said you'll be starting up in a year's time, like, right, I'm going to watch every episode of Star Trek twice, including all the stuff in Discovery. I'm going to take every note known to man. I'm going to speak to loads of fans about it. What do they want to see? And what kind of stuff have we really failed at? Talk to the people who've helped create all of the things that are still alive, including the Discovery people, and trying to figure out what they were going for, how did things go wrong, and then try and get everyone to, just work really hard, get stuck in.
You're talking like a normal human being, though.
I miss that shit, man. There are people
they're not interested in any of what you've said. He said to himself, Kurtzman said to himself, it's not about Star Trek. It's about using Star Trek as a platform for our messages. And that's what it is. They don't care about Star Trek. They don't care about any of it. It's about pushing their ideology.
But what's bizarre is, when did somebody believe that they have messages that other people are supposed to listen to? Like, where did that come from? It used to be that if you wanted
ego, narcissism, the age of the ego, the age of narcissism. I guess
so. Because, great stories have those themes. The great stories have those themes baked into them.
Yeah.
And it's what I don't understand is I never hear about, like, I would consider we are all students of great storytelling. The things that we've liked over whether they're comics, whether they're, and even to a certain extent now in video games. Like, I've always maintained that the way film was the art form of the 20th century, and how we didn't even get sound until the late 1920s. I really do believe that interactive entertainment, let's call it gaming, is going to be what defines the 21st century. And whatever leaps and bounds are going to happen haven't happened yet. We're going to see the same kind of revolution at the end of the 2020s. I don't care if it's holographic, whatever it is. There's going to be something that is revolutionary that we don't even know yet. As long as I can
attach something to my groin, I'm good.
Well, it's going to be something along those lines. We've already seen it in virtual worlds and things like that, but it's going to be beyond that. I don't know what it is, but I mean, clearly the great thing about movies was it was an extension of literature. At first you had plays that people watched on stage, but then when we got to movies, people were adapting books, and they were understanding literary conventions were being brought to the screen, and the people that were writing movies were very well versed in literature because they understood storytelling structure. Even though novels and plays are a different format than movies, the way stories work are the same. It's just you have the extra added idea of you can now use visual metaphors the way people would use literary metaphors or turns of phrase. And nowadays I feel that, like so many other things, the fundamentals of storytelling are not being taught, because when you're just watching movies and TV, you're missing out on the actual. It's like when you start reading The Elements of Style by Strunk and Wright.
Games follow trends, dude. Games
sure
follow
they
trends.
do, but eventually
and the gaming industry is regressing more from a technological standpoint than it is progressing how it was. It's now getting into a very lazy sort of rut. And the stories are only as good as the storytellers, and the storytellers are the ideologues right now, and the stories that are coming through are all about fucking pronouns and fucking other bullshit in weird circumstances, and unless somebody comes along who actually wants to revolutionize and actually take gaming to the next level, I think gaming is going to go into although it's the biggest by far at the minute, 3 times bigger than Hollywood, I think it's going to go into a huge rut in the 20s, a huge fucking rut.
Well, maybe that's what it's going to take to bring it out of, because I do think that this kind of storytelling, it seems weird to say this, but I've been saying this all my life, is not truthful. And the only reason that great storytelling works is there's a truthful nature to the stories that are being told. And that's why something like Squid Game works and becomes a phenomenon, because people can feel it. And there's so few stories where people look. I really liked The Queen's Gambit, for instance. That was an adaptation of a novel that Scott Frank wrote and directed. I felt that there was a lot of truth, a lot of stuff in there that was I thought was terrific. I was a fan of Walter Tevis's work. He wrote The Hustler, and he wrote The Color of Money, and he wrote The Man Who Fell to Earth. And I think that eventually there's going to be a backlash, because, and it will change. It's just frustrating to be at this point in my life and watching so many substandard stories, when I grew up in a world watching a lot of, especially in film genre cinema, there was very little of it that was really any good. And then post Star Wars, that's when we started, getting so many really interesting films throughout the 80s. Everything from Stuart Gordon adapting Lovecraft with Reanimator to something like Back to the Future, to Ridley Scott doing Alien and Blade Runner. There was all kinds of really interesting stuff coming along, and creators' voices that were very unique. And I feel like we have so few auteurs left that are working in film.
Because we're hearing the term, you can't make that anymore. You could. You could. You're choosing not to. That's the major difference.
John Wick was probably one of those where they were probably like, I think that's probably done. It's like, it's not done. People like watching that shit. I'm sorry. Like, make more of it. Yeah, because like I feel the same way with a lot of this stuff. You were saying like a lot of it's born from literature. It's like, well, I guess the origin, right, comes all the way back down to just campfire, tribal bunch of people, and someone's the elder of the tribe is like, let me tell you a story. And that common thing that comes after a lot of stories that were told when we were younger and getting older was, what was the moral of the story? Like the obvious implication that stories teach us stuff. They're super important to civilization.
Absolutely.
I'm a big fan of storytelling, and I don't like how shit it is right now.
No. It's incredibly frustrating. And as someone I've as a student and hopefully a storyteller myself in certain ways, it's incredibly frustrating to realize that I don't feel that the remaining time I have on this planet, the thing I like the most, storytelling, I might just have to give up on and say, okay, well, it's going to come back around, but not in my lifetime. And I feel sad about that. Even though I want to love all these things.
You're in your 50s, you're not 85.
No,
right?
I know, but still it's like, I feel like I love James Bond. I only loved one of Daniel Craig's James Bond movies,
Casino Royale.
Yeah, and I that was 15 years of my life.
Yeah,
and I had to watch 4 more Bond movies that disappointed me in one way or another. Even Skyfall, I'm like, oh, they're trying to ape the Dark Knight, and it bummed me out. I want to see Star Wars. I saw Empire Strike. To me, there's only 2 good Star Wars movies. I mean, yeah, I like Rogue One, but to me, Star Wars and Empire were beautiful examples of fantasy filmmaking. And then, of course, Return of the Jedi, not so much.
Half a Return of Jedi.
Yeah, half a Return of the Jedi. And when you think about Return of the Jedi, it's like you can't get me excited about another Death Star when you've already blown up a Death Star.
Yeah.
It's just, why would I feel that the Death Star is a threat?
Don't worry, Starkiller Base is on the way.
Well, yeah, that was, I mean, just like it's
You say that as though there's not 1,000 more in Rise of Skywalker.
Dude, I mean, I can't even. I was so out with hyperspace skipping. I was like, I can't. I mean, but then again, I was out on Star Trek 09. I'm like, why was this allowed?
Why was this allowed?
When you have a villain, when you have a villain that is angry because a supernova destroyed his home planet and he's gone back in time 80 years. If his first thought is, wait a minute, I can go warn. The very reason I'm pissed off is I can go home to my homeworld and warn everybody this nova is going to happen. And then
no, he's got to chill out until the film starts.
I mean, I'm like, it was so. Is there no time travel movies like Back to the Future and the Romulan Empire? It was just such a weird. And I'm watching the movie. I'm like, is this ever going to happen? Like, are you ever going to think to yourself, no, I'm going to start blowing up planets because I'm angry about my homeworld being destroyed?
Dude, love blowing up planets, so
you're back in time, dude. Go fix the future. I mean, it's like, come on. And I can't. I get behind this, and I'm like, I would have sat in an edit bay and been like, he's gone back in time. Why don't
he can just nip back home?
Can't deal with it.
It's okay, but because Picard's gonna get blamed for everything.
Oh, you know what? It's amazing. They're gonna go back in time because there's a fascist future they have to prevent. It's so original, shockingly original. I've never seen anything like this.
Just because they thought Trump was still going to be president. And who would have thought that they actually predicted it correctly? Uber Geek with a £5 says, I think the genius with this one is subtlety. It's not a plunge to their deaths or running for their lives. They got killed by marbles. I would say they got killed by each other. They got killed by each other. It wasn't even the marbles. Like Song Woo, after all of his failures, when he tricks the marbles out of Ali, and Ali goes down the corridor to count people, and he just goes to the guard. He's just casually putting his the jacket back on, and he's just like, you said to get all the marbles. You didn't say how. You just said without violence. And so he's playing within the rules of the game. With the girls, it was just a discussion. Essentially a discussion on who's worthy, not worthy enough, but who should live when you are in such a such a what's the it's kind of the word I'm looking for, something like it's like a visceral, pragmatic situation that they're in, where one of you is absolutely going to die, and two people are logically kind of discussing which one it should be. And then the third one was already determined. I agree with Mauler. I think number one always was going to bow out at this stage of the tournament. If you want to call it that. This stage of the games, shall we say. So this was a character study. This wasn't about games. This was about character. It's crazy episode. It's so good.
Why worry about season 2, man? I feel like they might miss that. They might be like, let's have a bombastic game.
I agree. I absolutely agree. I really wish it's that two-edged sword where you're kind of like, I'm excited that they're doing a season 2, but at the same time, I don't think they needed a season 2.
No, that's the same thing. It's something successful. So, I mean, what's really interesting is the lesson of Squid Game is it's so successful because it was so unique. So look for that. Cultivate that. And the idea that a second season of Squid Game is going to be just as unique as the first, and that you're going to make as much money and gain as many subscribers or whatever, I think is a false assumption to make. I mean, you know, no one ever gets really successful in Hollywood by following a trend. You set them.
You set them, yeah.
You set them. And where are these new IPs? I mean, Squid Game is interesting because now it's an IP. You know, going into a second season, it becomes an IP. But I would say that what's really interesting is, you know, you look at so much now of Hollywood is looking to the east, or actually I guess it would be further west, for an LA, further west across the sea to China, to Japan, and to Korea, and other Asian countries to find new interesting stories. And what I love about this is anybody who's ever watched foreign cinema, especially Asian cinema, has a rich tradition of fantasy and has a rich tradition of science fiction and horror. And it's great to see that it's being recognized on the world stage now. I mean, as we're trying to export our wares across the planet, now we're finding out that, we can acquire an Asian show like a Squid Game and the world will embrace it.
But
so this idea that, I mean, I think about, there's so many things. The fact that Parasite did win Best Picture at the Academy Awards, you know, I think it's in a way, it's a great thing, because if there's one thing that I love, we need storytelling competition, the same way we have economic competition. If suddenly the stories, I mean, you look at things like the series Dark from Germany.
But would you say this is a damning indictment on storytelling in the West? Or America in your case?
Because I do.
We're searching elsewhere, and, you know, and South Korea seems to be the place right now.
I do. I think that what I hope is that we as Americans, especially people that want to work in science fiction, fantasy, and horror, we need to step up our game.
Yeah.
You know, we need to start.
Look, you've got Chucky TV show, right? Chucky the toy doll.
That show's pretty interesting.
But
surprisingly,
right, okay. But you got a doll that goes around murdering people, and then he goes, "But I'm an LGBTQ fucking ally because my son's gender fluid," and that is just modern day fucking wank. That is modern day ideological shite, which has been thrust in because it's fucking trendy at the moment to fucking have yourself painted in fucking rainbows and glitter and say, I want my fucking 2-year-old child to be slut dropped by a fucking drag queen. That's where we are in fucking 2021 with the West.
I was gonna use Cobra Kai as an example. If you're gonna go back and resurrect old IPs, and both Chucky and Cobra Kai are 80s IPs that have been resurrected. Now Cobra Kai is not perfect, but what's interesting about Cobra Kai is, to me, that's the way to resurrect an IP in a proper way. And the one thing about the Chucky series, like what you said, is absolutely true. But, and I haven't watched all of it, I've watched some of it. There is a lot of stuff that's pretty interesting going on in that show that I found unexpected. And I'm not saying, look, I'd rather somebody come up with new IP, but I think, you know, Chucky, following on the heels of Ash versus the Evil Dead, which actually also did a pretty fun job of bringing back, I mean, a character that was created in 81, or that made its screens in 81. To me, as long as the creativity is there and we can see, and I feel that so many of our bigger IPs don't have very creative, there's successful people that have been, again, on a corporate spreadsheet, like a J.J. Abrams. Bad Robot has a history of, they've got a great track record in TV for the most part. So it makes sense that as far as a corporation's concerned, someone like J.J. Abrams keeps getting these jobs. But when you look at the things he's actually made, like Force Awakens and like specifically The Rise of Skywalker, The Rise of Skywalker might very well be one of the worst science fiction films ever made. I mean, forget that it's a Star Wars movie.
Never saw it. Don't want to say it.
Yeah.
I mean, but it really, truly is one of the worst, most nonsensical science fiction films ever made. And the fact that it's a Star Wars movie exponentially magnifies its sins to me. And what I don't understand is why that was allowed to occur. I mean, I guess I do understand why it was allowed to
because
occur.
they went in without a fucking plan. They went in without a direction. And they just went, right, let's just make 3 films.
But that's
JJ, you start it, and then other directors will carry on.
What other company, though? I mean, what other business would allow that kind of... And the funny thing is I think it comes down to the people that are working. It's always been the people that have worked at the studios are not people that are well-versed in storytelling. And when I worked at Warner Brothers 30 years ago, it was the same kind of thing. You know, you had Ivy League educated business people that on a spreadsheet look great. Oh, this person went to Princeton. This person went to Yale. This person went to Harvard.
Did you watch episodes?
What's that?
Did you watch episodes?
Yeah. Did you watch them? And
no. Did you watch the show called Episodes?
Oh no, I did not.
Okay, with Matt LeBlanc.
I didn't. Oh, yes.
Well, he was playing a parody, a satirical version of himself, and it was.
Pardon me, I didn't know what you meant.
The film system, and yes, it's suits who don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Green lighting, messing with shows, changing things so you have something successful. The premise of the show is there's a very successful British comedy. Called something or other, Pucks. They called it Pucks in it.
Yeah,
called something. And America buys it, takes it to America, and all these suits tear it apart until it's completely unrecognizable, and is an absolute and mitigated fucking failure because the studio system interference has taken what was successful and just annihilated it all to you know, because of data-driven whatever, this and that and the other.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what happens. And the funny thing is that whenever I see something like Squid Game become a success, and everybody is trying to figure out, well, why is it a success? How can we emulate this success? Hollywood always takes the wrong lessons because it's a combination of things. It's not just the subject matter, but it's how it's presented, it's characterization, you know, all the things we know and love about, which would seem obvious. You'd think that when you're going to work I mean, I think everybody that works at a studio should have a comparative literature degree, or they should have a history, or they should know something about storytelling, but they don't. And it becomes nowadays, what's interesting is people have even watched less and less movies. So the knowledge people have of movies goes back to 1990. And maybe there's throw in a few things that people have seen, Jaws, Star Wars. But, you know, you go back and I watch some of
Wikipedia.
Well, now there's a horrible channel on YouTube. I can't stand this channel. I don't even know what it's called, where they actually... No, it's a condensed. They condense movies down into like 10-minute chunks. It's almost
is it like a robot voice sort of explains the movie?
Something like that. Yeah, like a guy, whatever it is. And it's popped up on my.
This is
feed.
A movie about science fiction.
Yes,
it's set in. I've seen that.
And it's popped up in the last 2 weeks. This has popped up on my YouTube feed, and I'm like, who is making this kinds of things? I mean, this is insidious. You're breaking these movies literally down into plot points so you can get an explanation of the movie without watching it. It's like having the Cliff's Notes when you were in school. And I'm like, this is it. You know, we all know things because of Wikipedia now. You know, I go back and I try and get people to watch some of my favorite films like Sweet Smell of Success or Sunset Boulevard or All About Eve, you know, Double Indemnity. Well, I'm not going to go watch those movies. Those movies are from the 40s or the 50s, and they're black and white. I don't like how people talk, and it's just incredible to me. And nowadays, it's just really depressing. It's really depressing to me, and I wonder if you don't understand stories, and great stories are conveying the human truths. Well, how much do you know about the rest of life? And I feel like all of this identity politics and all of the things that are shaping modern entertainment are because people have a fundamental lack of their own lives. You know, they don't even know what it means to be a human being anymore. Because everyone's, instead of looking outward, You know, we're all looking in. We're all becoming navel gazing, myopic people that I only want things that I like. I'm going to program and curate everything that comes into my brain, because if I don't like it, if it's at all hard for me, it just better make me feel good about myself.
Welcome to comics.
Well, and it's just like, if that's what storytelling, if that's all you're getting, at the end of the day, what's going to happen when you are made to be uncomfortable? What's going to happen when the societal
I'll tell you
upheaval
exactly
that's
what
coming down the
happens
road?
when you're meant to make uncomfortable. You get people screaming and shouting at comedians making jokes. You can make jokes about them, but how dare you make jokes about me? That's what you get.
That's exactly right.
We're getting it right fucking now.
We are. And what happens when someone, marches into your town and says your house isn't yours anymore? What's that?
Shoot them in the face.
What's going to be? Yeah, let's hope so, or whatever. But I think it's going to turn into it's going to get real hot real fast, and it ain't going to be good for anybody.
No.
And I'll break it down. Bad science fiction is part of the reason that we're going to get in this world that we're getting. It's very funny. The very people that were the architects of our own dystopian future, because no one paid attention to the dystopian movies and the dystopian science fiction that we've had in the past. They don't understand it anymore.
I tell you what, when I watched back in the 90s Demolition Man, I thought, what a ridiculous concept. How ridiculous is this? I am living in fucking Demolition Man.
Yeah.
Living in it.
You guys remember Idiocracy?
Oh yeah. I mean, a movie that has become talk about Prophetic. And that's from the guy who gave us Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah.
I mean,
oh God, help us,
King of the Hill.
Yeah. Uber Geek with another £5 says, when she appears in bed after being dragged away, it's like the reveal of her being alive is to prepare you for number one's reveal of being alive. Maybe
in a way, maybe
don't expect the expected. Maybe I think it was just a subversion. It was a good subversion of the norm, because, like I said, I'd totally forgotten about the character because of how strong the episode was. It was just like, oh, her shit, still alive. Wow. Okay. Offer Nave with a $10, two $10 super chat. Mauler, I'm getting an echo coming through you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll just mute.
Offer Nave with a two $10 super chats. The first says, the unalterable nature of corporations is turn all products into drugs, targeting pleasure centers rather than providing nutrition. This is true for food, but also for stories and songs. Corporations literally cannot have human values and should be viewed the same as an alien invasion. Support individuals and private businesses, not corporations. Privatization equals humanization. Some valid points. Corporations certainly do not view on a human scale, and they do want to hit that. Like Twitter's set up to be a dopamine hit. It's a button. It's a get a like, get a retweet, get a response. But unfortunately, it's also set up to make you argue and pits you against other people. It's Twitter is a fucking disgusting piece of shit. I gotta get off it. Robert. I gotta get off it. I have to, seriously. It isn't an addictive little, but I do love a good shit post, and that's the problem. Love a good shit post. But it is a hideous thing. Canny O with a $2 says, have you given No Man's Sky another chance? No, I haven't. No. SARS, but plenty of other things for me to play. It's yum. I think yum eat up with a $5 says, all of you should spend your holiday free time on watching Arcane. If you already haven't, good times, probably the best thing in 2021. I will definitely watch it. Everyone keeps telling me to watch it. Kaneo is back again with another $5. Says, when, if not, you watch Arcane, and when, if not, Mauler does an EFAP on it, he should invite you, Drinker, and Doomer. He cannot resist.
Everyone who's watched it reckons it's amazing, so
yeah,
I'll have to invite everyone.
That's all I've heard. All I've heard is it's really good, and I need to start watching. But I don't. How many episodes are out so far? 4?
Oh, more than that.
Is there? Okay. But isn't it a weekly? Isn't this one that's dropping weekly episodes?
Oh, is it? It's Netflix, isn't it? I thought it was. Isn't it all at once or no?
Or is it? That's what I thought. I
no,
thought
they were
Netflix...
dropping them in three episode blocks.
Oh, okay. Oh,
I think there's 10 episodes out now, or 9.
So there's 9 out so far.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next, Ran Mori 82 with a $5 says, morality isn't so fluid as hotly debated. Folks who believe in divine revelation don't reject reality, but think God is an active part of it. Oh, subjective, that's morality.
Which is an odd thing to think, that if you could create the universe, that on one tiny speck of rock in all of the infinitude of the cosmos, that our creator would be spending a lot of time paying attention only to us, which is weird. But that's just me.
Yeah.
You know, we're in the western spiral arm of the galaxy. We're not even in the center, you know.
No,
where the giant black hole is.
Yay.
We're just chilling out on the edge, far out from the uncharted. What is it? The uncharted end of the western spiral arm of the galaxy lies a small, unregarded yellow sun, where digital watches are a pretty neat idea.
Yeah.
Though, if there was like an equivalent of Earth on the other side of the galaxy or whatever, wouldn't it be so cool to be like, what movies have you guys got? What are your favorite? Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Come on.
Do you have Twitter? No, we have this amazing social media thing called Talk Amongst Yourselves. And it's so good.
That would, but how cool would that be? You know, if we found an alien civilization, we asked,
and fucked it up for him.
Do you guys have movies?
Well, imagine they did, and they were like, all right, let's trade 5 each. We'd be like, oh, shit, which 5 do we give them? Oh.
Can we have a porno?
Well, if they were
like, Lord of the Rings counts as 1. All right, that's just 1.
Yeah. Godfather 1 and 2.
I want to throw in they're just, you know, we've already lost 2 of our picks.
Justice League.
You know what, you're welcome to put that in your pile.
Star Wars original trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
Back to the Future trilogy.
I feel like we've really taken advantage of this 5, haven't we?
Yeah, who betcha? Indiana Jones trilogy. Hell yeah.
There's just 5 trilogies.
Yeah.
And then somebody said the Rocky Quinn. Where are we with Rocky now?
Would it be great if, like, one of our choices, James Bond, they go, which one? Yes.
Oh, 25. No, you got to choose. Yeah, if you had to.
The MCU up to a point. Like, you just don't, you know.
And their TV's like really bland. And then we just essentially bring war to their world with all our films.
Yeah, imagine like all of their films are kind of just okay. There's just people in rooms just talking about stuff. Which, like,
and what if we sent them all of our alien invasion movies?
Yeah.
Imagine they just had like no movies like that. They watch Alien. They're just like, God, this is terrifying. We're like, okay, you guys, you need to. We got a lot more we can show you.
This is it. This is it. We'd just destroy a civilization overnight.
Turns out that's what they have, a perfect civilization. As soon as we introduce awesome movies, it all falls apart. We're like, oh no,
it's broken. Oh no, now they've got Twitter.
No, it'll be great. It's like, we love these 3 Indiana Jones movies. Is there another one?
No.
No. There's like one guy from Earth who's like, yeah, there was the kingdom of the what was it called? There's like, no.
Which is of course about aliens.
Yeah.
And we get a note back. What is this shit?
This last crusade was amazing. Does he go on another adventure?
Oh, guys, I love that Star Wars trilogy. Where do those characters end up? I want to see what happens next.
Oh, nothing.
Nothing at all. Nothing at all.
It's just too hard an act to follow. So George Lucas decided not to go there.
Like they never made a sequel. Like they did not make a sequel for many years. And you're like, did they? And you're like, not one for many years.
Not for a very, very long time.
What are you gonna do?
Katina Martin with a $2 says, could 456 end up taking #1 spot in the game?
Maybe
as in running the game.
Maybe he wants to participate again. You could really drive whatever story you want to with season 2. You could play with his motivations. Maybe he goes back into the game with the express purpose of trying to figure out how to break everyone out or something. I don't know. Like who knows what.
I just think the story's been told.
Yeah, I do too.
Mm-hmm.
Robert B with a $5 says the dialect is a broken thought process used to supplant basic storytelling. Okay.
All right.
Alexander Bayon Stross with a $10 says the issue is that reality is now more entertaining and by far more far-fetched than any story anyone could tell in a game for now. You're not wrong.
There's some truth in that.
Yeah. The Enabler
bad
Boys.
Plot twists and unbelievable plotting and storytelling. It's just...
Well, I hope I don't get a cold this winter because apparently colds now cause heart attacks and blood clots. What a coincidence. The Enabler Boys with a £5 says, now going to the past for new stuff, currently seeing The West Wing. It's fantastic. For the UK, the only current show that's good is Brassic on Sky.
I don't know that show.
I saw the trailer for it. It's kind of looks like a Scally comes out of prison and he's like, I want to go on a straight and narrow, and then it's just like, no, you can't go on a straight and narrow because we need to do stuff.
You got to be evil.
You know, with something. I mean, the premise we've seen a million fucking times before, but. The Gesture of Roanoke with a $5 says modern storytelling no longer know how to naturally convey moral sentiment or even basic good versus evil. Modern stories are what I call agenda fiction. Yeah, again, there's truth in that because, once upon a time with a certain franchise, let's call it Star Trek, for instance, we used to have great open stories that allowed you to determine the morality, what's right, what's wrong, what would you do? Now we're having the same franchise telling us what should be done and why you're a piece of shit, essentially. So, yeah, it all depends. A lot of the stuff is agenda-driven. A lot of the stuff is ideologically driven now. And that leads to very boring storytelling. Because it's not leaving things open. It's giving you a viewpoint and telling you that's the way it should be. And if you disagree...
Well, it's also interesting that that all of human history is suddenly brought into question. You know, that it's all, everything that brought us to this point. Like humanity, we've been living in a charnel house since we came out of the trees. I mean, You want to go back, there's been all kinds of atrocities against all kinds of people all around the world. And now it's gotten to a point where people in the West, somehow, it's a very Western, I think, a Western phenomenon. Identity politics and the way it's being played today is a very odd thing where Western civilization is becoming self-loathing. And it's strange.
Well, there's an aspect of it which is becoming self-loathing.
Yes.
And there's an aspect of it which is retaliating
yes.
by becoming more proud and patriotic. And
Yeah,
so
it's
you're
really.
getting,
I mean,
getting a
it's.
huge clash of ideologies.
But again, it's also it's all the short-sighted historical memory. Like, let's go back and like in the United States, we talk about this slavery issue as if slavery began when we enslaved people and brought them over from Africa 400 years ago, when slavery has been a part of humanity for thousands of years. And it's an odd way to frame, and there's slavery going on today even. And it's a strange thing that we'll only have a discussion in the United States about slavery in one way, shape, or form, because we're only going to go back until it's convenient for us to do so. Then we're not going to talk about the issue further back than that. And I feel that's happening all the time. Like, people are picking we're picking our horrors, to make them more palatable. Like, which group needs their victimization to be framed in a certain way?
It's the victim Olympics.
It's very weird. Like, look, I mean, I was adopted into a Jewish family. And one of the things as a kid growing up, and the thing that fascinated me about what happened in Germany coming out of the Weimar Republic in the wake of World War I, it was one of the most vibrant, creative periods of time. And then it descended in a very short period of time into fascism for various reasons. But the thing that used to freak me out the most is that you had a whole group of people that were vilified in Germany. And one day you had people that had been living in a country for sometimes hundreds of years.
Mm-hmm.
And one day the government said, you know what? You people are no longer people. And your house is no longer yours.
Sorry, I zoned out for a minute. You're talking about the unvaccinated now versus vaccinated.
But we're there. Like, people forget.
We are there. Yes,
we're back there again. And this was something that happened less than 100 years ago. And it freaks me out, that suddenly we're now at any one point, it's going to be okay that suddenly someone comes. We're seeing it in America. I don't know if you've been following what's going on in Southern California, but there are now gangs of people that are ripping off high-end retail stores.
Oh yeah, I've seen all them.
And the problem with that is, how long until gangs of people show up at private residences and take your house?
Well, in America, they're going to find that. In America, that's going to be interesting, because if that happens in America, there's going to be a lot of
bloodshed,
gunshots.
Yeah. But that's going to be the interesting. I mean, we're already
the start
there.
of the purge.
It's yeah. And I think a lot of people be like, nah, that's okay. They look at the purge. The purge is a fantasy that they hope happens.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, there's
that's why it's such an interesting franchise.
There's a very sick aspect to society right now.
Yeah.
Let's memes debate with a £5 says, just so you guys know, new Cobra Kai season 4 trailer has dropped. And then he followed up with a £2 super chat saying the trailer, not the actual series. Cheers, dude. I'll check that out in a little bit. And then I think we just got a couple more and we're done. We can get chill out for a little bit until the drink a strum. Buffer T Justice with a $20 super chat. Thank you, dude. Hello, Asmall and Robert. Hello. How to you too, dude. Man of War 665 Neighbor of the Beast with a $6.65 super chat. I watch old movies for the smoking. Yeah. Terry Spilsbury says, with a £2 says, Jews is the greatest movie ever. Space Jews? Wasn't that the joke in
that was Dave Chappelle's joke.
Dave Chappelle's joke, Space Jews. And then he does that whole elaborate thing and he says, and crazy thing, the film is called Space Jews. Dave Chappelle, he's funny. Dave, I can't I don't understand it when people say I hate trans people. I don't. You're not been paying attention. I hate white people. It's fucking great. It's fucking hilarious. Youth in Asia. Oh wow, that works both ways. Youth in Asia. Okay, I like it. Well, I don't like euthanasia. Well, I mean, I don't want to be euthanized. With a $5 says R&B, like with the Starship Troopers book. It was post-technocracy until Earth telling about our liberal mistakes in the 20th and 21st centuries.
Yeah.
Fucking liberals.
Well, even the name, even what liberal, the idea of liberalism has changed. You know, it's all liberal used to mean is you're interested and open to new ideas. You know, it didn't mean that you would be open to ideas.
You're closed-minded bigots.
Well, you used to know you used to know what shows were good or what ideas were good, you know.
Markham Asylum with a £5 says, all hail, been a long time lurker on all your channels, love your work and decided to do more to support you and what you're doing. See you at the bar. Mark, dude, it's really cool, thank you. And Utley Yatam, maybe, with a $5 says, first time super chat. Really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you, guys. Thank you, dude. James Esparza with a $2 says, all our new creatives spend their entire lives in HW. HW?
Homework. I don't know.
In homework, yes. We're going with homework. In homework. And last couple, we got Uber Geek with a £5 that says, just to follow the Enablers super chat, Brassic is about the life of Joseph Gilgun. Nothing to do with prison. It's really funny and would really recommend. Okay. And then Sensei Sharkbait with a $5 says, Robert is correct. Woke agendas are choosing to not prosecute various crimes now. Not even at a $990 threshold. Well, those states are going to turn into shitholes. Absolute shitholes. When there's no repercussion for your actions, what the fuck do you expect?
Well, yeah, that I don't understand. I mean, it's
crimes at an all-time low, dude. Because no one's getting arrested.
Very strange.
And there we are. We're all caught up. And we're going to take a little break so we can just chill out before the Drinkers stream. So please go across to the Critical Drinkers channel in less than half an hour. He's going to be celebrating his 1 million subscriber.
How cool is that, by the way?
Oh, so good.
That's somebody whose channel is basically arguing for great storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
Our boy is growing up.
Gets 1 million subscribers.
He's all
who, by the way, himself is a storyteller.
Yes. Yep. A published author.
And I love that.
Yeah. So he knows what he's fucking talking about, this boy.
Yes, he does.
So we'll all be there, all three of us. We're all going to be there. So please do join us. A massive thank you to everyone who came and listened to our discussion on Squid Game episode 6. Next week, going to be back on the Roberts channel for Squid Game episode 7, where, oh God, that game, that fucking game just gets me every fucking time. Huge thank you to everyone who hit a couple of super chats here has just come in as well. I was going to say thank you to the super chatters. Aitken with an 8 Australian who got banned for a couple of minutes in the chat by my accent. Hail, gents. I was raised to choose the company I keep wisely. Thanks for the company. See that?
No,
that was a nice little compliment wrapped up in that super chat. Thank you, dude. Aitken. Sorry for accidentally banning you when I was going after a titty spammer. James Esparza with a $5 says creators spend their entire lives in Hollywood, for fuck's sake. Hollywood. HW Hollywood. No real experience outside their city, short of the news on TV, AIA, Rogan, and the like. I don't think they've got any experience whatsoever. Full stop, judging by some of these fucking idiots. But there you go. So huge thank you to everyone who hit that super chat button. Also hit the membership button and join the channel. Thank you for that channel support. Big thank you to my mods for doing moddy stuff. I really appreciate you gals as well. Thank you so much indeed. And a big thank you to my guests. Obviously, my co-host Robert, Maya Burnett, and Mauler, who jumped into this week to discuss episode 6, because episode 6 is good.
Yes,
thank
sir.
you to you as well. And we'll all see you in round about 30 minutes or so from now on the Drinkers stream.
Will
By
be
the way,
back.
Then,
personal to Nicholas Silva, I am a windbag. I am a windbag. Guilty as charged.
Awesome. You're a fucking windbag, dude.
I feel like we all
Fucking
are.
windbag.
That's how we're.
Yeah.
That's what you got to be on these shows. You got to be a bit of a windbag.
That's our
Well,
brand.
when you're doing talking streams, it
Mhm.
kind of helps if you're a windbag.
Well, there are people who, when they find out, like, oh, an EFAP stream's 10 hours, how do you even talk for that long? It's like, yeah, it can be hard. Like, you have to windbag.
Loudmouths, gobshites. That's what we are.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Or I could just like be edgy like this all stream, not so much to go. Well,
Well, you know what we could do is all leave our seats and just play someone else's video. We could do that.
yeah, make some nuggies.
Oh yeah.
Chicken nuggies. We'll see you over at the Drinkers stream in about half an hour or so. Until then, take care. Bye for now.
Bye bye.
Bye.